Cool, excellent. Good morning, everybody. Again, thank you for joining us for the latest in our series of webinars, and this one will be on how to get the most out of your NICAS and NIBAS scheme. I am Robert Mackenzie. I'm from Mountaineering Scotland, and I will be your host for today's webinar. I will be handing over to our panelists in a little bit to take it away and give you guys an amazing morning of information. And I'll be back periodically throughout the day for the question and answer sections as well. So let's have a quick look at what the schedule for the day is, if anybody hasn't seen it already. Excellent. So yes, I'll do a quick introduction and then I will be handing over for our first session. I'll be handing over to Nick Parkin from the from NICAS, sorry. And then quickly followed by some coaching gold. For our session 2, we've got Jules and Mel. They're going to be joining us and giving you some awesome coaching tips for how to run your NICAS just that little bit better. And then we'll have a question and answer section. I'll be joining you guys back for that. We'll go through some of your questions, followed by a quick break for lunch. And we'll be back in the afternoon for Tom's business case study. That'll be our afternoon session, followed by another question and answer. So that is our schedule for the day. But who is actually running these presentations today? Today we are going to be joined by 2 of the UK's finest coaches, who are both also course directors for NICAS, and we are also going to be joined by the operations director for Parthian climbing, and 2 big names from NICAS royalty. If you don't recognize them already, they're here. Yes, our first session will be taken by none other than the managing director of NICAS, Nick Parkin. Nick has spent the last 2 decades delivering and developing various areas in the sporting and fitness world, and somewhere in there found himself at Westway, where he got his first glimpse of climbing and NICAS and was kind of hooked from there. And a little bit of work and development later, Nick is now managing director for NICAS and is leading the charge in building a learn to climb scheme that anybody of any age can access and begin the journey of a lifetime of happy climbing experiences. His words, not mine. And then after that, we are going to be followed up by Melissa Bacon and Juliet Scott. Juliet, who runs Boost Climbing, has over a decade of coaching experience and delivering mountain training coaching qualifications, as well as being a director for NICAS, and she's also part of the coaching development team for NICAS as well. So she's very involved in the program and what we're talking about today. Mel is the assistant manager for Brooks Climb, as well as course director there. She also runs lots of outdoor rock skills courses and the assistant climbing award, as well as being on the mountain training mentoring scheme. So she helps lots of instructors going through their own journeys into whatever area of climbing they want to work in. So and on top of all that, both of these guys have full, busy and pretty strong personal climbing careers as well. So these ladies ain't playing around. This is the real deal. We got you guys the big dogs for this presentation. This is good. And then in the afternoon to talk to you about how to build the most successful business end of NICAS, we have the operations director for Parthian climbing, Tom Vaessen-Walker. I said that right? I think I said that right. Good. Climbing since he was a teenager, he has worked in the industry again for the last 20 years in a variety of capacities, route setting, coaching, instructing, but is now the operations director down there. During his role, he's helped to develop their NICAS program into one of the best in the country. So lots of wisdom from Tom here today. After each of the presentations, we are going to have a question and answer section. At the bottom of your screens on your Zoom screen, you will see the question and answer function there. If at any time throughout the presentations you've got questions, throw them at us, throw them in the question and answer. I will be keeping track of all the questions that come in here. I've got a second screen beside me. I'll be keeping track of all your questions and I will try and get through as many of them as I possibly can. I have neglected to introduce Abby. There's a good start to the day. Sorry, Abby. Also, joining us for that question and answer section will be the last but very much not least, the queen of NICAS, Abby Blakey. Having worked in NICAS throughout a variety of projects, she finally locked herself into the membership manager for NICAS. So I'm sure many of you out there watching this have met or have spoken to Abby before. You've had the pleasure of meeting her. If you haven't, I'm sure you will at some point soon. She definitely gets around speaking to all of the members. So yes, Abby will be joining us for the question and answer sections. So like I said, question and answers, you've got the function there. Anytime you've got questions, fire them in there. I'll be keeping track of all of them. And during the question and answers, we will try and get through as many as possible. Now, we don't have a huge amount of time to go through all of the questions. So we might not get through every single one that you guys ask, but it's okay. I am keeping track of all of them here. And if there's any that we don't get around to during the webinar, I will be getting answers to them, and I'll send all the questions and the answers out to you guys after this. So don't worry, if your question doesn't get answered, I will be getting it answered in the coming weeks. This webinar is also going to be recorded and put up on a YouTube account somewhere, and we'll send that link out to you guys as well. So if there's anything you missed, don't worry, you will be able to catch up. There's also going to be a number of polls. Yes, like I said, this is going to be really, really interactive. During Jewel and Mel's presentation, we're going to have a bunch of polls and questions and a full quiz for you guys to answer. So what I'll do is during the presentation, I'll bring up poll questions for you, answer them as quickly as you can, get back to the presentation, and we'll take it from there. But yes, please be as interactive as possible. So I'm going to hand over to Nick for our first presentation. Please use the question and answer function, leave any comments, questions, answers as you possibly can. Be as interactive with us as possible. It will make this webinar even better if you guys are a lot more involved. Look forward to hearing from all of you guys. I'll be back a little bit later on. If all the rest of my presenters can hide and mute themselves for a second, I'll hand over to Nick from NICAS for our first presentation. Cool. We can see your screen there, bud. Take it away.
Perfect. Thanks ever so much, Rob, and thank you for everybody joining us here today, taking time out of their busy schedules. So just to kick off, I'm Nick. I've been Managing Director since June 2019, which I think was a time, if you can remember that far back, was when the industry was riding on a wave of optimism with the Olympics coming ahead. Obviously, my first year has turned out slightly differently, but what we've never lost sight of is that we needed to start delivering on a number of projects that the climbing community has asked us to deliver for them, so that we can get more people into walls and touch more groups of people rather than just the youth market that we currently exist to serve. So those are some of the kind of new initiatives that we've got coming up. I'll allude to some of those today. But as with all kind of building projects, we need to kind of make sure the foundations are good. And what we're looking for you guys to do today, we know the climbing community is very important to us. We're here to serve that community, but we're also, we also understand that we need you guys to influence and advise those who might not be present today about what we're talking about. So just to kind of talk about what we need to do here today. So before we start making any changes to our products or start to change things, what we needed to do is we needed to make sure that everything made sense. And what we've currently got in the NICAS brand world, if you like, is there's 5 logos or brand identities, one of which isn't even ours, but the Association of British Climbing Walls. We often get confused with those. The name of our charity is the Association of British Climbing Walls Training Trust. And then we've got our products, which is NICAS NIBAS, and then you've got a dual branded logo at the end there. And none of these really talk very well to each other. I think in isolation, if you looked at the NICAS and NIBAS logos and you weren't anything to do with climbing, you might kind of wonder what they actually indicated, or you know, what was it about. And they've served us very well for you know, the 13 years that we've been in existence. But then we start to look at the website, we start to look at some of the key visuals that we've got and some of the branded assets that we've got out there. So the website on the left in the middle there, and then we've got some leaflets, participation certificates, banners, and then over in the corner we've got the logbooks. And none of those really talk to each other. The PowerPoint presentation that I'm now using also, that talks to the website, but none of it is consistent. And if we want to start to introduce new products so that you can get more people into the walls, then all of that needs to make sense, and we need to make sure that that makes sense now before we start moving forward. So currently we need to make NICAS talk to everybody. At the moment, we're a business to business operation. Our customers are walls, and we also have relationships with our stakeholders like the BMC, the ABC, Mountaineering, etc. But what we'd like to do is we'd like to be able to talk to learners a lot more, and coaches, like a lot of the people on this conference today are. And we also want to be able to talk to schools a little bit more. We want to become the first climbing partner for all new climbers, not just youth climbers, but all new climbers. And what we see in the climbing industry at the moment is that there isn't a recognized climbing brand right across, certainly for learners. So in retail, you know, you'll find the likes of DMM, Patagonia, if you like, and they're recognized climbing brands. What we don't really have is we don't really have anything in the UK climbing market that's a recognized brand. So you have to come into a wall before you start to learn about NICAS and NIBAS. What we'd like is for learners to be coming into walls asking to do NIBAS and NICAS. So what we had to do is we had to make sure that the brand architecture made sense with all of that. So as a result of that, we the board asked us to proceed with a rebrand. We had 4 agencies pitched to us, and we selected one, a London-based agency called LBA. And you can see the timeline there. We started around about a year ago, and the brand development has actually been in process in September. So there's been a good 6-month process there. And since March, we've been applying that new brand identity to all our assets, which is a huge piece of work. So just to give you an indication, we're kind of quite lucky, we think, to have acquired the agency to help us with this rebrand that we did. These are some of the brands that they helped steward. Certainly in the sporting sector, they're predominantly with football there, and this was the only brand agency that we selected that didn't actually have any exposure to the climbing world. And these are 4 of the key things that that they informed of us. First of all, they said that we should remove the ABCTT endorsement and just bring that internally. So as a charity, we will still always be known as the ABCTT, and we won't move away from that. But what that will move to become a simply internal function, and we'll probably use that just at board level. Probably the key change is that the NICAS and NIBAS brands will now come under just one brand, so the NICAS brand, and that's to strengthen the brand and avoid any confusion, so that we've got a universal brand for everyone. And from that, we'll bring all products and services under that NICAS brand, so that we've got a clear thread across all the courses, and it's about continuity and a seamless brand experience. And what we really want NICAS to be is strong and widely recognised, as I've mentioned, and beyond just being an acronym, in the same way that PADI has superseded the original acronym that stood for. So PADI, if you're familiar with that, everybody tends to know that that's about diving coaching, and there's a quality global brand around that. If you actually ask people what PADI stands for, most won't know. So those are the 4 key insights and recommendations that the agency gave to us. And then they started to develop some initial design routes as to what our brand could look like. If anybody's been through the creative process like this before, you'll know that they present a number of routes, and then from the feedback that we give them, they tend to go down one route, if you like. And then from that, they take an audit of all the things that might appear in climbing, and that then tends to start to form ideas as to what the brand could look like. And as a result of all those 6 months worth of work, we came up with a new brand identity. So the next slide, I'll be showing you the new brand identity. And here it is. So this is our new primary brand mark, primary use brand mark. You can see on the left here, the orange is just so that we've got the standout on the actual logo. So you've got the NICAS lettering, horizontal format, in quite poppy colours. So we wanted that to be quite playful, because our predominant market is youth between ages probably about 7 to 14. So we didn't want to lose sight of that. But round that, you've got what's called a holding device with a cutaway corner there, and that gives a little bit more ownership. And as I go further into the presentation, you'll understand why that becomes a little bit important. But as with all of our schemes, flexibility is key. And what we've got here is we've got flexibility for NICAS to be represented in a bit more of a grown-up fashion. We've been asked previously to look at an adult product, and an adult product probably might not work too well with these colourful, playful colours. So we've got something a little bit more grown up there. And what we've got here in the centre, we've got something that we can apply to or make another brand descriptor. And again, I'll touch on that in a second. We also have an option for a secondary use of our brand. So this is a vertical representation. We would urge people to be quite cautious with this, because to non-climbers, you don't often get the readability of NICAS, even though it might say National Indoor Climbing Award Schemes at the bottom there. We probably expect that this might be used in anything between 5 and 10% of cases. And that's sometimes when your own wall logo might be a vertical logo so that this looks better alongside it, or there may be an environment where we're a bit pinched for space, and therefore a vertical logo would suit better. And this is where it all starts to come together. So this is the NICAS NICAS brand identity, and now you've got all the new brand descriptors. So NICAS as we know it would be known as NICAS Climbing. In reality, we will still probably just refer to that as NICAS. NIBAS will now become NICAS Bouldering. NICAS Education down here, this is where the GCSE and eventually the Duke of Edinburgh, BTEC, A-level products, Scottish hires, they will all sit underneath there. But what you'll also see as well, we've got a couple of placeholders here, and these are for new products that we will be looking to introduce in 2022. One of the obvious ones there, although this is not one of the products, is when we eventually get around to doing a speed climbing course, we've already got the framework and the structure here with the brand to be able to slot that in quite easily. One of the most interesting things and some of the best feedback that we've had about this whole process is the NICAS Pro brand descriptor. So what we're looking to do here is to bring a bit more kudos around the coaches and the instructors. So what we would do there is our coaches and instructors would be known as NICAS Pros. And from that, we would hope to have that relationship with them where we're able to communicate lots of different online or in-person learning opportunities, so that rather than just as communicating either through a course director or directly to a wall owner, we know sometimes that the learning opportunities don't get filtered through. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to have a NICAS Pro community where NICAS can communicate directly to them and offer all these options so that they can improve their improve their coaching. So that's pretty much where we're at with that. I'll whiz through some of the designs that the agency have provided for us. So here you can see obviously the certification. These are some of the key visuals, and you can see there we've got a really nice standout with the holding device on the logo on that first one there. Some merchandise. I won't go into this too much today, but it will be a key part of our strategy to increase discretionary spend. This is an example of a vertical one, how it might be advertised outside of walls. And again, this is just another representation where, you know, in a dual branded or co-branded environment, you get quite a bit of standout there over and above other logos. Here, this would be our effectively our digital icon or our app icon. Again, something in development, but don't get too excited just yet, because this is really quite a big project to tackle. Again, I won't touch on this too much, but we asked the agency to look at how we hold our logbooks, because we need to move away from the plastic folders for sustainability and environmental reasons. And these are just a couple of the ideas that they threw down. We will develop that at some stage. It's not in development at the moment. What is in development is the pre-NICAS program that we were asked to produce. And these are some of the initial ideas that the agency provided to us. We're almost at full stage development of that, and that will be going into a trial at a couple of walls, maybe 3 walls at the end of July. We'll let you know a lot more about this, and it's an absolutely fantastic piece of work. It looks nothing like that you're actually seeing there, but we'll let you know more about that at the ABC conference, along with another products that we'll be talking about there as well. How are we going to help you support all this? Naturally, we've produced a style guide which will inform your designers or whoever you're using how to represent our logo with all the color codes, etc., what to do and what not to do. And you can see here, this is how we might expect our brand to have that little bit extra standout and not to be manipulated in a negative way by, you know, whatever level of designer you've got out there. We will also be supporting with what we call Brand Central. So we will be producing a whole host of images, climbing images, that you can, any NICAS accredited wall will be able to use for your own marketing. We'll be providing those key visuals. We'll be providing social tiles that you can use on social media. We have some videos. We will be producing campaigns, and eventually that will probably be 4 campaigns a year that you can get behind or not get behind. It's entirely up to you as to which ones you dip in and dip out of, and also banners and pop-ups. And the idea behind all of that is that you can either use your own local printer if you wish, or you can buy them directly from our printer. And there, again, example of what we may be able to produce, and then you can have those in your wall. And then just very briefly to finish kind of the context just behind all of this. So, you know, NICAS has been the partner for tens of thousands of new climbers over the years. We want to be the partner for a lot more new climbers. And we realize the responsibility that we've got as the first point of entry into the climbing world. And we want to be doing a whole lot more things to bring people through the doors to your walls. And it's about speaking to the climber within. So we believe that everybody out there, whether they've got any climbing experience or not, has got a climber within them, and we want to bring that forth. So I'd just finally like you to consider 5 things. I'd like you to audit your existing assets and think about where you've got references to NIBAS, either online or in print. Think especially about any images that you've got with existing NICAS, NIBAS or ABCTT logos. And you can see certainly on the Climb Scotland website, there's a little bit of work that they will eventually need to do. Make a plan to either update everything all at once or by discovery. We're not stipulating that a light is, you know, on the 1st of September, you've got to start using the new logo. We realise in a COVID environment that it may take a little bit of time for you to make changes. We're not going to force you to do those. The NICAS web address will not change. The NIBAS web address will still point to NICAS, so you don't need to worry about links. The content of our schemes is not changing. Okay, so again, it's just a new wrapper, if you like, a new set of clothes. Would like you to communicate with colleagues so that you can let them know that this is happening. And what we don't want you to do is embark on any big marketing expenditure or whatever with our old logo. And eventually, over time, stop using terms such as NIBAS, ABCTT, and NICAS Coach Instructor. And you can see there, NIBAS becomes NICAS Bouldering, ABCTT becomes simply NICAS, and any coach instructor becomes a NICAS Pro. And that's all I've got to say today. Thank you so much for listening. What's super important is if you don't understand anything or you've got any questions and we can't get to them today, there's my email address there. Just get in touch with us, ask the question, let us know what you feel. And that's it. Thank you, Rob.
Well done, buddy. Thank you very much for that. I'm sure you all sitting there in your walls or in your homes have got a million questions on the whole rebranding. Yeah, it's exciting times, isn't it? Exciting times. Brilliant. Nick, thank you very much for that. Could I get Mel and Jules back up? Nick, you can hide yourself and you guys can take it away.
Hi everyone, great to have so many of you on the webinar today. I'm here to give you all some ideas and support on promoting wellbeing after lockdown. Running sessions, it's just not skill fade that's a concern, it's children coming back to NICAS and NIBAS sessions. I know many of us are focusing on skill fade, but we also need to understand those anxieties that people have returning to climbing, which could be social anxieties, anxiety working with others, returning to sessions or leaving a parent, anxiety over skill fade, or just not coming back to climbing. Does this sound familiar? So I know it does for me. But what do we do? Remember those soft skills, keep it fun, motivate them. Motivate them with the logbooks, goals for sessions, and those certificates. So these books and all these certificates are really important. But what is fun? Robert, show us the unicorn.
There we go.
Okay, so maybe being the unicorn coach may be a little extreme, but you can see what I'm trying to get at here. So let's think outside the box here. As much as we love to all stand around in a circle, doing star jumps, running on the spot, now is the time to really show the fun factor in warm-ups and sessions. Robert, can you show us the video? But what else can we do as coaches to aid with people feeling this anxious about our sessions and coming back to climbing? Well, apart from keeping things fun and motivating, Ignite Sport do some really great online courses that help you understand how to lead sessions, aiding in health, lifestyle, and help improve immunity. So these things are level 2 in leading health-related activity, active living for health, and active well-being. If you'd like to have a look at this, this is the website. So screenshot me now. Also, depending on your area, it could be a free course for you, or it's just something extra on your CV as well. Please remember the wall you work at should have copies of the handbooks. And if they don't, then please contact Abby, our NICAS queen, as we know her as now, and she'll be happy to send you out some. Use these books for guidance. They'll refresh you on how to run sessions efficiently at each level and understanding those requirements. So let's pick one out. Level 2 NICAS, demonstrate a range of warm-up exercises that are suitable for bouldering. So maybe we should have a think about games that have skills in them that can be developed through playing games. But what do I mean by this? Well, think of how to run games that show agility, balance, coordination, and teamwork. So, for example, the close swap or pass the hoop game. Which skills do we use here? Robert, show us the hoop photos.
Okay, can you see it? There we go. Hula hoop is up.
Yeah. And on to the next screen. Great, so we can definitely see there's a balance starting to go on here, working as a team, while they start trying to pass the hoop along the line. So we've got agility as well. And this game is shown with adults that would work really well on an NICAS session. So what I'm trying to say to you all is keep it fun, keep it real, and read those coaching handbooks. Thank you all for listening. Robert, back over to you.
Ah, brilliant, Mel. Thank you. I'm so happy that video worked. Grant, I have hidden Jules' video. If Jules could come back on screen for me, and you can take away with your presentation. If we can maybe have Jules back.
Can't.
There we go. There we go.
No.
Excellent.
Thanks ever so much, Mel. That was awesome. Your sessions look really fun. I'm definitely going to steal your boxing idea. That looks brilliant. And I completely agree that after this year, with all the lockdowns, that we really have to prioritise mental health and the effect that that's had on people, as well as skill trade. Good point. Also, my passion is also making sessions fun and active as possible. So I'm going to try and do a brain teaser with you across Zoom. Let's see if it works. You'll need a piece of paper. You need to put it in front of you horizontally, like this. And get yourself a pen. I want you to draw 3 squares and 2 circles alternating. So start with a square. You see that okay? Square, bad circle, square, circle, square. If you can only fit 4 on your, if it's an A4 bit, don't worry, that'll still work. Okay, so the rules are, for the square, put your hand down flat. For a circle, put a fist. And we're going to work our way along the piece of paper, trying to use both sides of our brain. We'll see if mine's awake this morning. Okay, so then when you get to the other end, come back again. Ah! Okay, I think I got that right. Should we have one more go? Try and get a bit faster. Oh. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, let me know in the chat if you were able to do it or how hard you found it. If you managed to do it quite easily and we want to take it a little bit more difficult, I now want you to put a line in between each shape, like a divider. So I'll just show you, just draw a straight line in between each one. Okay, this is taking it to the next level. I'm not brilliant at this, so you'll probably do a lot better than me. For the squares, we're still flat hand down. For the circles, we're still a fist, but for the dividing lines, you need to do like a karate chop hand that's upwards. Okay, we're going to go one way and back the other. Let's give it a whirl. Hand facing down. Ah. Whew, concentration, and back again. Sure, you did a lot better than me. But they're nice little challenge to get you started and a good coordination trick stuff. Okay, so I'm mainly going to be looking at fun and why it's important. So there's been a lot of research into the reasons why people participate in sport for all of their lives. Over the years, there's been a lot of different factors looked at. Why do people continue with their sport and why do people drop out? And across all of the studies, they've all found that the main reason why people stick with a sport, including climbing, is enjoyment. If young people are enjoying something, they're much more likely to be intrinsically motivated to carry on. So rather than doing the activity because it's on at school or because their parents want them to do it, it's because they really love it themselves. So when children are asked, why do you do climbing? The main reason that they'll give is because it's fun. Whereas if you ask, why did you drop out? Why do you not do your sport anymore? It's because it wasn't fun anymore. So children use the word fun for enjoyment. So I'll use those two terms today. But think, what is it that you find fun about climbing? If you can message me, that would be cool. I've had a big think about it the last couple of days. And to be honest, I love everything about climbing. The socializing, the adventures, the activity. But if I really zoom in on the activity, exactly what it is that I love about the movement, it's when I'm doing a problem or a route and it's really hard and I get to that move and my brain says, not a chance, Jules, you're not going to get that. You're too pumped. You don't understand how you're going to hold that. There's no way you're going to get it. And I put all my focus and energy and think I'll go for it anyway and give it everything I've got and really bravely throw for it or do whatever and see if I can get it. It doesn't actually matter if I get it or not. That experience of breaking through my mental barrier makes me incredibly happy. That's my idea of fun. Be really interested to hear what it is that you enjoy. So across all this research that's been done, and there is a lot of worldwide research across lots of different sports, they group together people's answers into what it is that they enjoyed, and they call these fun factors. Okay, I'm just going to try and get a slide up. I'm just struggling a little bit.
Just scroll back to your slide.
Yeah, it's not letting me. Right, let me try it again. Sorry, guys, I am not brilliant with tech.
Jules, click on the screen for me.
Yeah.
And then use your keys on the keyboard to go back to the first one. There you go.
You are a lifesaver. Thank you. Okay, we are back. Okay, so what factors make sport fun? So they got millions of people's research and they lumped them together into these factors. Okay, I think Rob is hopefully going to put up a poll for you so you can have a look. There's kind of trying hard, improving, mental well-being, positive coaching. If you had to pick out the top 3 things that you think people said why they found sport fun, let me know what you think. Interestingly, a lot of people misunderstand the term fun and they think it's just messing around or having a laugh. But this really shows that fun means different things to different people. And actually, it's a big motivator. People think that fun doesn't have a place in high-level sport, but when athletes, Olympic athletes, are asked why they carried on with their sport to a very high level, all of them cite fun and enjoyment as one of their top reasons. Okay, Rob, do we have anyone has answered? Is there anyone out there?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. What, about 25 people have answered so far. If you haven't answered already, please do click on whatever options you want, your top 3 options there for factors. Great spelling mistake, Robert. Well done. Factors make sport fun. Excellent.
Factors.
Yeah, there we go. Cool. All right, I'll wrap up the poll there. I think I can show you the answers.
Thank you. That would be great.
Share results.
Nice.
There we go.
Interesting. So a lot of you, especially, and this is across young people, team friendships is your highest one, and then trying hard, followed by well-being. Positive coaching is down there at 32%. Swag, I didn't really explain that. That's like t-shirts and free stuff. Practice. Yeah, interesting. So the top 3 that came out of the results, which I thought was quite surprising, the top factor is trying hard, is the one that people vote for. The second one is positive team dynamics. So rather than just friendships, positive team dynamics means things like playing well together as a team, supporting my teammates or feeling I have support, showing good sportsmanship, getting help from my teammates, warming up and stretching as a team. So it is quite different from friendships. Interestingly, when I voted, I thought it would have been friendships as well. And the third one is positive coaching. So for people to feel they're having fun, we need to be a really good coach. Okay. It's a nice thing to do with your students, this. I cut these out on bits of paper and get them to rank it. So it's quite nice to know what it is that motivates people in your team. I've done this across lots of different classes I teach, and trying hard comes out in the top 3 every single time. So interestingly, fun isn't messing around. Fun can be, working something hard or achieving your challenge or working on a challenge. Cool. Well, I think you've listened to me for long enough. So I'm going to try and run a quiz for you on NICAS. I was presuming that most of you have done NICAS and NIBAS sessions, but for any of you that haven't, NICAS is split into 5 levels. It's rope climbing, so harness climbing, and level 1 can start at age 7, and it's the introduction beginner. Level 5 is really experienced, so national competitions, writing your own training plans. NIBAS is the bouldering. Again, that starts at level 1. There's a complete entry level for everybody, going all the way up to national, writing your own training plans, assessing your own abilities, stuff like that. So that's the range if you haven't done them yourself. So I'm going to try and give an overview of everything that's covered in the schemes, and all the pictures are used from sessions that I've run pretty much. I thought might give you some ideas. Don't worry if you don't know all this. Apparently some of the panelists didn't get all the questions right, so you'll be allowed, but if you're feeling competitive, I did this on 2 of my students and they did manage to get it right. So send me your scores at the end, let me know how you've done. It's multiple choice. It's going to be A to D for each one. Send it in and Rob will pop up the answers for you. Okay, so quiz. Question number 1. What level do climbers learn to lead, climb efficiently and fluidly, clipping all the quick draws correctly? I'm going to give you about 20 seconds. Rob, if you can put the poll up. Thank you. A, is that NICAS 2? Is it B, NICAS 3? C, NICAS 4? Or D, NICAS 5? So it's climbing efficiently and fluidly and clipping all your quick draws correctly. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. Okay, cool. Let's see how you did. Yeah. Oh, I'm so pleased. Right, it does actually work. Yeah, well done. You got that right. It is NICAS 4. Excellent work, people. Right, next one. Oh, sorry, this one. So which NIBAS level 2 skill is this student working on with her coach? So is it A, laser pointers? Pop at the poll, Rob. B, mobility, C, route reading, or D, communication? So it's a NIBAS level 2 skill, and it's the girl with her hands in the air. Hoping that's quite easy. Give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's see what you got. Excellent. I have a good audience. Well done. Right, route reading. Ooh. I like this one. I'll give you a little bit longer for this one because you've got a bit to look at. So, which 4 climbing moves are shown in these picture puzzles? There's A, grip, flag, rock over, or knee jam. B, a palm, flag, Gaston, or something that I can't read, it's fine. C, a palm, flag, Gaston, or knee, oh, can't read. Hand jam, flag, dino, or knee bar. I hope you can see the pictures. I can move the screen out of the way for mine. Okay, so I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's see what you got. Nice, well done. Yeah, nearly all of you got that right. That's a hand jam, flag, dino. One of my students made this lesson, and a knee bar. Okay, question 4. At which NICAS level must students learn to belay with a variety of different belay devices? So it's not just how to use a device, it's being able to use all different ones and know when is appropriate and why they're good and bad. Is that NICAS 1, NICAS 2, NICAS 3, or NICAS 4? Quite tricky, I thought. I'll give you another 5 seconds. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, a bit trickier. If you haven't done it, that would be quite difficult. You were right, it was never going to be on NICAS 1 because that would be a bit difficult. They do introduce it at NICAS 3, but I can totally see why you might think it might be a level 2 or 4. Number 5. Complete an appropriate boulder problem with confidence is a requirement from which level? Okay, so just doing one problem with confidence. Do you think that's NIBAS 1, NIBAS 2, NIBAS 3, or NIBAS 4? This is my student Charlotte, who's now 16. She looks tiny. Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds. Okay. Yeah, well done. So it's an introductory one. I can see why you might think it was 2, but it's actually a requirement for level 1. Question 6. Hopscotch is a great warm-up game, one of my favorites. Which of these skills does it develop? Is it A, agility? Is it B, balance? Is it C, coordination? Or is it D, all of the above? What do you think? It's a great game, this. You can play this with really little children all the way up to adults, and it works really well. Okay, 5 more seconds. Go for it. Excellent. I am glad. Everyone maybe has done funders. Well done. Number 7, a little bit trickier. NICAS 4 introduces advanced climbing techniques. Which move is shown on this picture? Is it A, a heel hook, B, a toe hook, C, a foot jam, or D, a bicycle? It's quite an advanced move, this one in climbing. Give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, cool. I can see why, because there is a toe hook in there, and a bicycle is a combination of pressing with one foot whilst pulling with the other, and you kind of create pressure in between the 2 feet. One of my favorite moves. Okay, well done. Right, question 8. NICAS 5 requires a detailed understanding of different competitions, so like national or regional. Who is this athlete in the World Cup in Boulder? Is it A, Akio Noguchi, B, Miho Nanaka, C, Ashima Shiriashi, or D, Yanya Garnbrett? Okay, so you need to be into your comp bouldering really to know this one. This is one of my very, very favorite athletes, possibly my favorite. She's amazing. Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay, good, let's have a look. Yeah, this one was tricky, wasn't it? Yeah, well done though, most of you did get that. Okay, good effort. Oh, sorry, too far. Question number 9. At which level do students need to give a presentation on the hazards and risks of lead climbing? Is it NICAS 5, NICAS 4, NICAS 5, or NICAS 4? Okay, quite important this one, because lead climbing has got a lot more risk associated with it. So the kids need to show like a full understanding of the risks involved. Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's see how you did. Yeah, tricky. It was going to be 4 or 5, wasn't it, on NICAS, and it's actually 4. Yeah, I have to check that one myself. Question number 10. Again, this was made by my student Tilly. So which 4 types of handhold are represented in these photos? Have a look and see if you can figure them out. Is it a jug, a gaston, sloper and pocket? Is it a crimp, a jug, an undercut and a side pull? Is it a jug, a gaston, pocket and sloper? Or is it a mini jug, crimp, pocket and jug? Which one do you think? Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's see how you did. Yeah, excellent, well done. Too easy. Right, question 11. Name this knot and the course which it is taught on. Knot that causes quite a lot of controversy. Is it A, a bowline in NICAS 5? Is it B, a clove hitch in NICAS 4? Is it C, a bowline in NICAS 4? Or is it D, a clove hitch in NICAS 5? I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's see how you did. Very good. So it is a bowline in NICAS 5. I can see why it would be appropriate at 4. I think it's because of the controversy around it that they leave it for the later level. Okay, all very close. Okay, question number 12. In which course do students need to demonstrate a detailed knowledge of the risk management and appropriate role of spotting? These are all the dads spotting my student Lily. So is it A, NICAS 3, B, NIBAS 3, C, NICAS 4, or D, NIBAS 1? So the importance of spotting. Where do you think that would be put in? Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay, let's have a look how you did. Yeah, very good. Most of you got that. Well done. Yeah, it's NIBAS 3. It's actually quite difficult to spot correctly. And if you do it wrong, things go wrong, which is why they leave it for a slightly higher level. Number 13. What is the specified hold called that you can earn a climber extra points in bouldering competitions? So not the top of the bottom, there's a hold in the middle of a boulder problem where you get extra points. Is that a sloper, a booster hold, a zone hold, or a bump hold? Don't know if anyone's been watching the World Cup. Obviously on there. Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's see. Yeah, excellent. Well done. It's a zone hold. If we look at the picture of Tilly on here, just close the poll. Yeah, it's always the hold part way up. I'm not sure if that's a comp, so it might not have it on. Right, question number 14. At which level do students need to connect themselves and others with a re-threaded figure of 8? So this isn't just doing your own, it's doing your partners or your friends. You need to be able to connect somebody else with a knot. Is that NICAS 1, NICAS 2, NICAS 3, or NICAS 4? Quite tricky if you don't do NICAS. Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's have a look how you did. Very good. Yeah, it is B, NICAS 2. And that's at the top of the list. First things that you need to do on NICAS. Really cement your understanding of tying in. Well done. Okay, number 15. This is one of my favorite moves too. What is this move called? Is it A, a leg jam, B, a knee wedge, C, a leg wedge, or D, a knee bar? Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's see what you thought. Excellent. Nearly everybody got the knee bar. I like your idea of a leg jam. Kind of describes it well. Okay, question number 16. At which levels must students produce a detailed personal performance profile? Do you think that would come on NIBAS and NICAS 2, NIBAS and NICAS 3, NIBAS and NICAS 4, or NIBAS and NICAS 5? This is my squad being profiled by GB coach John Redshaw. Very interesting to do with your students. Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, really good. It's NIBAS and NICAS 5. So this is pretty high level. You need to have a really good understanding of climbing for this to be worthwhile. Right, number 17. The NICAS scheme is split into 5 levels. Put them in the right order. This is quite tricky. Okay, so we've got a different assortment of the words: new, foundation, technical, lead, and advanced. Have a look at the orders there and see which you think. So it's like kind of saying new climber, foundation climber, technical climber, lead climber, advanced climber. What order does NICAS put those in? Okay, I'll give you a little bit longer on that because there's a little bit to look at. Okay, 5 seconds. Okay. Okay, the right answer was A. Well done. That's quite tricky, I thought. Okay, 18. Which advanced climbing technique is being practiced on this photo? Is it A, a layaway, B, a lean-to, C, a footlock, or D, a toe hook? Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, 100%, very nice. Everyone loves a toe hook. Question 19. What hand position is this competitor using to grip the hulls? This is quite tricky, I think. Is it a hook, a guppy, pinch, or a crimp? Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. Let's have a look. How did you do? Excellent. Yeah, it's a guppy. She's actually doing 2 guppies there, quite unusual. Okay, last question. What does TTPP analysis stand for? Is it thinking, tactics, personal protection? Is it technical, tactical, physical, psychological? Is it thinking, trying, participating, practicing? Or is it thinking, tactics, practicing, and persevering? Quite tricky. For the last one. Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, let's have a look. Yes, well done. It's technical, tactical, physical, and psychological. So it's a way of breaking down your climber skills and seeing how they're doing. Okay, well done. If anybody managed to get 20 out of 20, message me. That'll be good to see. Okay, well done in the quiz. Obviously got very knowledgeable coaches on today. Yeah, you got most of it right. So well done. Moving on to the last activity. Mel, could you come back on for me? Hello.
Yeah, I'm back. Great quiz there, Jules.
Thanks. I hope you got it all right, Mel.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Right, we're going to have a look at what makes an inspirational coach. So when we looked at those fun factors, in the top 3 was positive coaching. So that is a really important element that we can have a direct influence on for our young climbers. So in your mind, imagine an inspirational, I put NICAS on this inspirational coach's t-shirt. What would an inspirational NICAS coach look like? Think about someone you've had coach you. It can be in any sport. And think about the attributes that made them really inspirational. What were they like? What did they wear? What was their body language like? What was their personality like? If you could message me like single words of things that you think makes an inspirational coach, and I will try and write them on this beautiful lady coach over here.
Hi guys. Yes, everybody, please put in, use the question and answer function, put in what you think would make an inspirational coach, and the girls can stick it up on the board there. There we go. People putting stuff in already. Put it in the question and answer function for me. That would be grand.
Better than me. That's funny. Okay, egregious. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'm going to write it on. Sounds good.
Oh, we got
Okay,
one through from Laura, engaging. There we are, Jules, get that on there.
Thank you. Definitely one.
Come on, guys, let's get some. What is an inspirational coach?
Engaging, good.
Who
Paul has
inspires
written
you?
better than me. It's interesting, in climbing, we definitely like our coaches to climb well. And that doesn't need to happen in a lot of other sports. They don't care, but in climbing, we really like our coaches to be able to climb with us and maybe climb better. Climb well.
There's more coming now. Another one, Jules. We've got positive.
Oh, nice. We like that. Positive.
Enthusiastic, reassuring, and relaxed.
Marvellous. You're very enthusiastic, Mel. I like.
A good one from Richard. Patient.
Relaxed. Patient. Awesome.
Encouraging from Suzanne. Thank you.
Oh,
Knowledgeable from Des Dover. Nice one, Des.
encouraging. What was the last one, Mel?
Another one from here. Fun. Yes, we love a bit of fun. Motivational. Thanks, Stuart. Adaptable coming through Rob. Nice.
Knowledgeable, yeah.
Able to listen.
Approachable. Knowledgeable. Open-minded.
Approachable. Nice one, Suzanne.
Sorry, my writing's getting worse and worse. Okay, well done. Some really good terms there. And interesting what it is that we want in our coaches. On the research that was done, they had similar things. So coach treating players with respect, having a coach who's positive, we've got here, good role model, nice and friendly, easy to talk to. I think this one is really important. A coach who allows mistakes while staying positive. And I think that encouraging statement, that sits in there, doesn't it? So that we feel safe enough to try hard things and fail. When a coach participates during practice, and when a coach jokes around with us, things that children liked. Positive, fun, absolutely. Knowledgeable, you've got to know your stuff, haven't you? Otherwise, that's a bit boring and disappointing if you can't actually know about your subject. Okay, thanks, Mel. Well, I hope we've given you some ideas about how to be an inspirational coach and how to make things fun and why making things fun is so important. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well done, guys. That was definitely the most interactive webinar we've ever had. That was brilliant. I'm so happy those polls worked. I was really nervous. Yeah, well done, everybody watching on for engaging with the polls and putting in your inspirational qualities there. My absolute favorite for the inspirational qualities was contagious enthusiasm. I love that. Oh yes, if I can be contagiously enthusiastic, I am a happy man for sure. Cool. Can we have all of our panelists back on the screen? Can you start your videos and unmute yourselves, please? We'll do some questions. Everybody that is sitting there watching along, if you've got questions, I'm hoping you're all there furiously typing questions in there. Stick them in the question and answers. We'll try and get through some of them just now before the break. There were a couple came in. Let me start with NICAS, the rebranding, the big news. Next, seeing as you went first, there was a couple of questions that came in, and I know you answered them with text in the question and answers, but just for anybody that missed it. So when will the new certificates start, and can you still use the old ones?
Yeah, so absolutely, please deplete all the stocks that you've got. Certainly, we're very much not about creating waste, so manage your stocks appropriately. We intend to have all products and all assets available for the ABC conference, 9th and 10th of September. So, you know, even at that stage, you might be looking to buy new logbooks. Fine, go ahead and do that. You may still use some of your old smaller stock for specific groups that you might have coming to the wall. So that's what I'd recommend you do there. There was also a thing about certificates as well. Please still continue to issue those certificates. It really is not about throwing stuff away just for the sake of a new brand.
Brilliant. And with regards to the rebranding stuff, the images, videos and stuff, when will all that be ready to be put out to people, do you reckon?
So when I mentioned about Brand Central, that's something that we will keep adding to over a period of time. We already have a video series that we just need to put the new branding skin on, and that should be available relatively quickly. We need to try and fit in some sort of commissioning for the images that we want producing. We'd like to think that that's going to happen before September, but you know, some of it's not. The campaigns, they're probably going to start either second or third quarter next year. So it's going to be a process of adding these things, adding these marketing resources to Brand Central. So you're not going to get everything all at once. What you will get right from the off is you will be able to download all the logos, the style guide, so at least you'll know how to use it. And there will be some key visuals on there as well that we'll want you to have to be able to promote NICAS.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And question for our coaches around here. There was a couple of questions that came in, but one that I've got myself is when we're running NICAS, oftentimes, you know, coaches will only ever see the kids, but do you guys involve the parents in any of the conversations when kids are signing up to NICAS? Is it something that you would recommend doing? And if so, when would you kind of engage with the parents?
Mel, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So normally, most common for me is engaging with the parents when they're doing NICAS, because the parents do like to be kept up to date on what their children are doing. And I think that's quite important that the parents also understand what they're paying for and they understand the achievements that are going on. And they are quite keen to come in and push their child to achieve these certificates. And they can be fairly pushy, but most of the time we don't have parents involved because we don't have enough area for tons of parents to be stood around. But definitely get the parents involved to push their children, to push them through the levels. And it just gives them more enthusiasm as well. Jules, what's your experience of it?
Yeah, so I'm very similar. Talked to them beforehand. I don't tend to have them involved at the lower levels. Just I find the children tend to learn well with a bit of independence. But in the later levels, I have parents who've been trained in the climbing wall assistant who assist me in belaying and helping me run my sessions. So as I like to get more towards kind of being able to do some one-to-one and being able to take my eye off the rest of the room, that can be really helpful. Right, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're very lucky, aren't you, Jules, if you have some guys who have done the assistant award, or if parents who are climbers, they do become quite useful and they do want to engage as well, don't they?
Yeah, it's really helpful.
I'm always a big fan of engaging parents, not so much in bringing them into the session themselves, but having conversations with parents early on about what NICAS actually is and how it will be run. Because obviously there's a huge safety element to NICAS, and you know, I find that if parents aren't clued up really on what NICAS involves, they tend to try and push kids through the levels kind of before they're ready to. And obviously we need to make sure that when kids are going through the levels, that they're actually safe and that they're ready to move on before, not so that they're not moving on before they're ready. And I think a good idea to maybe introduce is speaking to the parents, speaking to the kids about kind of realistically how long it takes NICAS to get through NICAS, and you know how much time and you need to put into it to make sure that you are safe when we're doing this. So yeah, I'm a big fan of engaging the parents, just having conversations, and you know, if they've got awards and stuff as well, bringing them into the session. Brilliant idea. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Is that something you see any of your guys doing, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, parent engagement for us is quite important because we want to make sure expectations are set from sort of early on. But also there's a really keen thing that for us, we want our kids to participate more and progress, and having that non-session activity, so parents bringing them in and taking part with them, and making it more of like a family thing, as well as their own individual time, like what Jules was saying. It's really important for them to progress by themselves and have their own independency. But yeah, I think that's why it's worked so well for us, is because we brought the parents on the journeys, not necessarily letting the parents mother coddle or anything like that at all. It's more to do with the fact of them just understanding, and in some cases, if they understand, they're more happy to step away from the process and allow us to do our jobs and allow the kids to progress how they need to progress, and it kind of takes away that pushiness. Maybe I think also our sport sometimes maybe isn't given the credit it's due, and a lot of people think it can't be that hard to learn a knot, or it can't be that hard to belay, or it can't be that hard to learn techniques, whereas I know kids, and I've had friends that have spent years and years becoming good swimmers, and that it's absolutely fine for that to be 2, 3, 4 times a week exercise that they'll do constantly before school, after school. Whereas with climbing, the thought of doing it 2 times a week for some parents is a bit scary. So it's just understanding, or giving them the understanding to progress that. But yeah, parents are definitely the key, I think, for helping kids progress.
Exactly.
Yeah, and especially when they get onto those levels 3 onwards, 4 and 5, it's a lot more detailed. So if those parents understand that, they understand why everything's starting to slow down and what's involved. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
There was actually a really good question that came in, and someone said they're very comfortable with the knowledge base and know where they can find information about what to teach in NICAS or in sessions in general. But where would you guys recommend they find more information on how to teach things or how to coach things? And like, I think that comes across everything that we try and coach. But there was also a question asking for similar on how to make fun sessions for teaching, like how to put your harness on or how to tie a knot. So yeah, some good resources that you guys can recommend of how to teach and how to coach these things in a fun, NICAS-y way.
Well, I think I can say, can't I, Nick? We've NICAS have been developing lots of new products, and they're really high quality about coaching. Almost every product that NICAS are delivering for training is based around good coaching practice. So it can be based around how to do fun and engaging sections for NICAS at the lower or higher levels, or how to coach really fun sessions with a lot of games for pre-NICAS. So I think that will be a really good source for people.
Yeah, I think there's a number of answers to that. Certainly, if you want to, learn yourself and or identify things online, then UK Coaching is always a good place to start for, things like that. Again, it comes back to the fact that we want more of a relationship with our coaches, so that we can talk to you a little bit easier, so that we can identify these learning opportunities, so that we can understand what coaches need and want, so that they can deliver good quality coaching for NICAS. Ultimately, ask us, get in touch with us. We're not entirely sure what level you're at, but sometimes we can always point you to either a local primary centre. We have a coach development team up and down the country, in Ireland as well. These are really great experts in NICAS. And, if the need is sufficient, then we will always put on a workshop where we can. And certainly over lockdown, we've not been able to dust them off yet, but there's, I think it was around about 11 workshops that we've had our coach development team develop, and they're literally on the shelf, ready to come out and deploy where we need to.
We've also been running a series of inductions online, so that started during lockdown and those continue. So if you think you'll benefit either from a reinduction or you haven't ever had an induction into running the schemes, then get in touch, because those are ongoing. We might be actually running one this Friday morning. So if people are looking for that sort of interactive discussion at some of the key points within the schemes, that could be talked about in a lot of detail. So that's another option. And as Nick mentioned, we developed a series of workshops, and with lockdowns and reduced numbers and capacity, that's not being fully advertised yet, but we have people ready to start delivering those live as well. So definitely get in touch with us.
Brilliant. There was a good question. NICAS level 3 consistently uses the 3.6, sorry, is consistently uses correct breathing. Any good session ideas that people can use to work on their breathing? There was a comment came in, someone kind of answered it. There's in John Kettle's book, there's actually a big section on breathing, so that'd be a good one to look up. But have you guys got any advice yourselves?
I do for particularly before a crux, we do training and we do competition training. We do the 3 deep breaths. So before you're about to go on, 3 deep breaths and try. It's sort of improved if you've got more oxygen going around your system, you're more likely to be able to make the move. Also, if you're tense, taking a deep breath before you, like a belly breath, before you go for a move can really help to relax your muscles again and make it a fear of heights, again, like anxiety. Learning when to breathe whilst tense can really help. So maybe doing a deep breath between each move is good, or doing extra breaths on rests or before a crux. That's something that I teach. Mel, do you do anything of that?
So I was just reading some of the questions as my signals are not working very well.
Okay.
Sorry, carry on, George, just while I sort my signal out this end.
Abby, you mentioned in the chat that you might have some info
On the breathing, yeah. So it's something that's come up before. So a lot of questions come in centrally to us about bits of the syllabus, and I asked some of our coach team probably last year about how to look at breathing. So a couple of ideas: use of breathing before a competition climb, counting to 10 when breathing in and out in a steady way to calm nerves. So we're talking, about getting that oxygen in there. They said discussions around whether climbers should breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth could be had as a discussion point. Could be personal preference, but can help people become more self-aware of what they do. So breathing on the climb shouldn't just happen, it should be controlled, just as an athlete controls other parts of their body. There was also a suggestion of use of power screams as a fun session that encourage people to breathe out during hard moves, breaking that holding breath problem. And I think someone mentioned about John Kettle's book as well. Also, Al Harewood, he mentioned practicing it. So you can psych yourself up or calm yourself down by adjusting your breathing. So that could be something that people could try in a session of like really thinking about how they're feeling and then adjusting their breath and seeing if that makes a difference. And Johnny Dawes talks about the sound of a move and plays around with rhythm of movement and breathing whilst trying hard moves. So there's a few suggestions there. I can, if you email me, whoever was asking the question, then I can put together the notes that I've had before when that's been asked.
Thank you very much. Cool. Right. So there were some questions in there that we aren't going to have time to get to. We might get to them a little bit later on after Tom's session this afternoon. But if not, don't worry. I will get answers to them and we'll send all that out to you guys afterwards. But let's have a little break just now, guys. Grant, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody, for getting back with us for this afternoon's session. We've still got everybody that was here this morning. That's brilliant. Again, massive thank you for being so interactive in the questions and answers and in the chat. So like I said, if you've still got questions from this morning, stick them in there. If you've got questions at any point throughout Tom's presentation, please use the question and answer function, chuck them in there. We will again be having another question and answer session at the end of this. Hopefully we can get through some of the questions we missed this morning as well. But again, if we didn't, don't worry, I've got a record of them all. I'll get all the answers out to you guys in time. And Jules is back. Hopefully Mel can join us. I know her connection was a little bit iffy at a couple of points there. But hey, it wouldn't be a webinar without some technical issues, would it? You know, we can't expect this to be completely smooth. So, are you ready to come? Yeah? Excellent. Right. If all of my other panelists could hide their videos, mute yourselves, we'll hand over to Tom for our final presentation this afternoon. Some snippets of gold on how to make your NICAS business a success. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tom. Take it away, buddy.
Cool. So hopefully everybody can see that all okay. Does that look all right, Rob?
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. Okay, so first off, hello. My name's Tom Vaessen-Walker. I'll go into a little bit more about myself in a moment. I won't spend too long on it, don't worry. What would be really good, just in the questions or the chat, could you just pop down what wall you're from, if you are from a wall, what NICAS or NIBAS levels you currently deliver, or if you're looking to, what you're looking to deliver, just so I can have a rough gauge as we're going through this, if there's a really specific hot topic sort of area that we're looking for. Obviously, the coaching one we just had from Jules and Mel was really nice and interactive. I promise mine won't be death by PowerPoint, but it will be maybe not necessarily as engaging as what we've just had. So throughout it, if anybody wants to throw any questions, something specific, I'm more than happy to field them sort of as we go through. The business section sounds very formal, doesn't it? Making the most of NICAS for your business. Now, to start off with, and I think probably the most important thing is just sort of give you a little bit as to who I am and why I'm talking to you today. So my name is Tom Vaessen-Walker. I am the Parking Climbing Operations Director. I've been in the industry for 21 years, and that's from starting, I think someone actually here is from the climb in Amersham. That was where I started learning through like a similar scheme to NICAS, and then progressed through, and after years ended up managing it before moving to Reading and subsequently taking the operations director role. I've been an instructor, I've been a coach, I've been a manager, and now I'm a director where I'm overseeing sort of all the elements across multiple sites. I was involved in the very early stages of setting up Reading's NICAS and Academy scheme, which in some cases has been seen as, I've sort of put in here the biggest, it's probably renowned as one of the bigger sort of schemes that we've got in the UK. And in a minute, I'll very much go into it. It's not down to me solely at all. I've got an incredible team, but hopefully the next sort of half an hour, 45 minutes, I'll be able to talk you through why we think it ends up being so successful. I've sat as a board member on the ABC, where there were elements where I was working alongside a lot of very knowledgeable people in the industry. So there's elements of that I brought into my role. Things I haven't put in here as well is I've also been an AYC for quite a few of the youth climbing series. So I understand how the transferring from NICAS to Academy into competitions work. The other thing as well that has sort of been really interesting for me is that I've worked with I've worked with NICAS in regards to new schemes, so things that have sort of been in the pipeline, and it's been really interesting to see where the direction of that's moved over the years. And obviously from what Nick's this morning of talking us through the new branding, I think it's even more exciting for us. So I think that's I think that's really, really good. So just have a quick scan of where we are in regards to people. Brooks, Swansea, Guernsey, NICAS 1 to 4, Key, Exeter, and the climb. Amazing, good, nice. Old school, that's mega. So it's not all down to me. I would love to take the credit for it, but I have an incredible team across all my 4 sites, and especially as today's sort of case study is based off of the Reading one. So for me, the main sort of success, or the reason why it's such a successful scheme we've got here, planning is truly key. And I think a lot of people think the planning in the initial stages is good. It's the subsequent planning afterwards and the reviewing that is really important. Getting the right team behind you is, again, vital. Not one person can do this. No matter how small your team is, you need support. And that can be support through external support, internal, having someone that's more experienced in certain areas, a whole host of things. And again, we'll go into a little bit of that later on. Understand your facility, which I think from going through a fair few NICAS applications, and equally from being sat on the ABC membership board where we were going through and signing off memberships that wanted to be NICAS walls at the same time, you can understand why the criteria is there, because to be able to offer a good structure and a good scheme, it is important that your facility is set up in such a way. And then the final one, which is always something that I think a lot of people do very well, but something that I think is really important to always revisit, is telling people about what you do. And that's kind of a nice way of me saying marketing, really. And there's just a few little things that I see a lot of places, and we've fallen into the trap as well, of doing wrong. And I think there's some really easy, fun ways that you can help sort of promote, really. So a nice sort of mixture of sort of places and levels and etc. Nice to see there's a bit of NIBAS as well as NICAS. So we're just talking about NICAS today, but it will absolutely be transferable across what you'll be doing as well. So hopefully that will sort of help, really. So to move on to the first part, planning and structure. So how to ensure a well-structured scheme that allows for customer retention and commercial success. A lot of big business keywords maybe that I think a lot of people get switched off by sometimes, but in a bit I'll move on to like the different types of structures that you can go down the line of, and I will be talking a little bit about what we did at the climb in the early stages of NICAS there. For me, we've very much gone for a retention model because we want to develop those kids through the scheme as much as possible. Now we're able to with our facilities, which is great. I appreciate some places won't be, but that's sort of focusing on today and trying to sort of work through where it all goes wrong. So to cut right to the chase, NICAS is an ever-growing beast, and for anybody who is either involved in the planning, the scheduling, the monitoring, the reviewing, the analysis side of it, no one term is ever the same. You will always need to work through it. You will always need to ensure that every step of the way you're developing, whether or not it be a whole group of kids going from level 1 to level 2, or kids that you thought were going to be progressing from 2 to 3 and they haven't. And if you're going to be running sessions in such a way that it is a NICAS level 1 scheme or level 2 or whatever it might be, it's constantly developing, constantly reviewing, and making sure as well that you've got the right team to be able to deliver the right sessions on the right days, etc. So reviewing is really key. Know what type of scheme you want to deliver as well. And it is important because we can't do everything, and we need to identify and then really push for going for that right scheme. And sometimes external sources, sometimes it might be that you want to be able to do that internally, so you need to plan for that and be able to train your staff and be able to give that sort of progression for them. And then finally, plan exit strategies. And I don't necessarily mean that as in where, although some cases that might be the case. What I mean is, where are those kids going to go inside your facility after they've either finished the scheme, they don't want to be part of it anymore, or where can they go to progress further outside of the scheme? I think we're all aware that the NICAS scheme is fantastic, but it has its limitations in itself, and actually being able to progress further and go into that sort of more competition element where it's more focused on the training and etc. is very important. And I think that is something that sometimes can be looked over quite easily. So what do I mean by the growing beast? No two terms are the same, no two customers are the same, yet we have to run a commercial successful scheme. And how do we do it? So I put here review. Every single term, and we run full school terms at our Reading site. So we will start the beginning of January, it will run all the way through until Easter. Then we'll then pick it up after Easter, run all the way through to the summer, and then we'll do September all the way through to December. Which is amazing for us because we can secure those spaces. Parents only need to book 3 times a year. We can be really open in regards to what we're doing with future terms. But it is problematic that we have to plan and know what our kids are going to be doing throughout that scheme, because 9 times out of 10, they will be passing throughout that term, and we might need to move them, or we might need to potentially change those terms or those levels. All the while in the back of our minds, we've got this element of this needs to still be successful in a financials benefit. So we need to make sure we're not just throwing sessions that only have a few kids on. So what I sort of suggest, and what I talk to a lot of my managers who deal with this to do, is to really understand your customers. And when we were sort of talking earlier, and Rob asked a question about parents' expectations that they might join onto a term, and over that 13-14 week term, they may pass a level and they may not be able to move on to the next level straight away. However, we can in those terms do X, Y, and Z. That means they will start to progress through the next level, keeping their expectations happy, meaning we don't have to change the format all the time, and meaning that when the new term comes along, they'll kind of get first dibs onto the new spaces that we've created. What would be quite good to do, and as I carry on just going through this bit, if you could just pop down in here, just letting me know what type of sessions you book for. So do you book term times, half term times, weekly, random day sessions, just something like that, so I've got a bit of an idea of again, who we're talking to, and equally it'd be good to maybe ask some questions back at you about why you do those things. So in regards to how you do a lot of this planning, and in a minute I'll also start talking about our academy program and how that sort of feeds into it. The ever-growing beast section I'm talking about is also bringing into question, when you've got those kids that are on that scheme and you've got those parents that have an understanding of what that scheme is, but then they're starting to fade out from it and they don't want to continue in a really structured scheme and they want to go into something else. This is where maybe exit strategies can come in, but how can you try and keep that NICAS mentality of logging, recording, having that progression and etc., but not having it to be in that same structure that everyone else is on. So one of the things I'd really suggest you to do is make sure you've got something in regards to how do you have those kids still take part in NICAS, or NIBAS, sorry, but it's not necessarily seen as a really rigid weekly structured session where they follow a strict training plan, almost like a social NICAS club type thing, where if you've got kids that potentially aren't achieving in that setting, can you then give them the option of moving into something else? So to move on to the next bit, what type of scheme do you want to deliver? Now, I've just pulled up these two. There are obviously loads more potential schemes out there that, or type of sessions, schemes, etc., that are happening. These are basically based off of what we started when I was in Amersham. I know subsequently it's sort of built and developed differently, but then what we're now doing here. So I've just called it the pyramid and retention scheme in a way, but it's not necessarily anything formal in that way. It's just how I sort of perceive it. So pyramid is basically focusing on having more participants in the lower levels. And the reason why you might want to do this is, one, your facility might only allow you to do that, and that's not a problem. Two, you have limited staffing and resources, so you're not able to develop your staffing into a really high performance level, and actually the level that they're at is great for what they need to deliver and what your facility is able to. There's less risk of bottlenecking in certain elements, because what you'll tend to find is, because that's what your program delivers, you'll find that they'll just naturally either drop off or move to other walls, or potentially they'll get to a stage where they'll then want to join maybe your more performance side element if you've got something like an academy or something like that. Now, obviously the cons of this is that you'll have to focus a lot of revenue in regards to how to generate new leads, new customers. You'll need to keep feeding the pool, which is really important for any business. But if you're really focusing on that lower level element, then you need to ensure that you are constantly bringing those in to fill those spaces you've got. Otherwise you might find people with those mid levels. Students who do want to continue may potentially find it hard that they can't. They've grown these incredible relationships. Obviously the videos and stuff that Mel was showing earlier, those kids have an amazing time with her on those sessions. If they're not able to continue, that might be something quite hard for them to deal with. But if they want to continue with the scheme, they might have to move elsewhere. So it's kind of understanding where you're going to sort of draw the line, and will you have another wall that you'll work with that you potentially can move them onto, and there can still be some correlation between casual climbing and structured climbing. And there is also an element you may struggle with building customer loyalty. It's not a given in any way, shape or form, but again, back to the point that if they've got to move between different walls, maybe they're not stuck in one sort of center, one sort of structure, and they'll need to move around between. And we certainly did find this a little bit when I was at Amersham. We lost quite a lot of kids to the Westway because they were delivering all levels. We at the time weren't. We were doing level 4 then. I know subsequently it got removed, and I think actually from on here you're still doing level 1 to 3 monthly session sort of payments, etc. That's really good. So when I moved to Reading, it was a perfect opportunity for me to kind of take everything that I'd learned in Amersham, and I effectively wanted to see the process through, because I'd never really been able to do that at the client. So we went for primary centre, we delivered NICAS level 5, and very early on we were inundated with level 3 and above. Scott actually was one of the first instructors who worked alongside me, like quite high up in helping me deliver the beast that was the original Reading NICAS and Academy scheme. And what we found very quickly was we had to have exit strategies. We had to have places to put these kids, because they were coming in already quite good high levels, and we weren't able to necessarily, we didn't have the staffing pool to be able to deliver these sessions so many times a week. And we were at a stage where we needed to get them to come in casually by themselves, so hence like a sign off and bits and pieces. Now, the pro of it, of having this sort of retention scheme where we keep kids along and we get them doing more times a week with us and casual climbing, is the retention, and therefore the potential guaranteed revenue is a lot better. There's less risk of drop off because you should be keeping the kids more engaged. However, you need to keep it exciting and fresh, and kids coming along to the same training plans, the same profile sheets, the same weekly routine obviously isn't. So there is a bit of an element of that needs dealing with. The cons, however, is you really have to focus a lot of time and resource into developing your team. It's amazing building up a team of coaches that get to a very, very high level, like professionally and personally, but then by the nature of that, they either tend to go off and want to do their own thing. I've had a lot of people that have gone and done what Jules is doing, have gone and become their own independent coach and are doing an amazing job with it. But obviously, I then have to replace that person quickly because I've got guaranteed business that I need to then deliver. So you kind of always have to have people in the wings, and you kind of always have to be developing, which costs time and money and resource, and it's not easy. And you do have to really identify those instructors pretty early on in their career path and bring them in on the journey and make sure that you're gonna keep them for that. You also may struggle to offer spaces for new participants, and I'm not just talking about that in the scheme, although here it is wanting to start the scheme. For quite a long time now, we've struggled to be able to offer loads of parties. We've struggled to be able to offer loads of intro sessions because our NICAS scheme has grown to such a big stage now that it fills most of the spaces. And in fact, in some cases, we have to really make sure we're careful to not oversubscribe and then upset that potential new business that's going to come through. So again, it's a real juggling act. And then the final one, which I'm sure a lot of you as coaches that are delivering NICAS, it takes a very long time. Back to this comment that parents have this expectation that little Jimmy's going to pass level 1 over a summer session or something like that. It takes a long time, and especially if you are going for that high level delivery and you want those kids to be passing with flying colours, it's not going to be a quick process. And we've had kids that have been on the scheme for years working through their level 5 now, and they're at that stage where they're nearly there, but it's not a quick return in that element. So you just have to weigh the two up. Now, obviously, for the benefit of the doubt, and as I've said, we chose option 2, and our new site in Southampton, that's exactly what we'll be doing because we want to have that opportunity to develop through. But back to my previous comment, it is not in any way a negative when centres want to go for the other option of just delivering the more sort of lower levels, so 1, 2, 3, because you can really focus and do an amazing job of that element, and you don't necessarily have to venture into the next side of it and sort of confuse things, as it were. I will also, in regards to facility, a later part of the slide, we'll be talking about facility and limitations, but for the moment, this is just what I'm sort of talking about when it comes to the planning side. So, Motivate, when I first joined Reading, and all they used to talk about was exit strategies, and I always used to see it as quite a negative because I didn't want to think of it as an exit strategy from them being on my sessions or NICAS schemes or whatever. But actually what I got to realize very quickly is it's not to do with losing these kids, it's to do with retaining them throughout their journey, whatever that might be. And in here I've just put down a few sort of ideas of things that we've worked with. So performance schemes to run alongside your NICAS. So we have a lot of interest from a lot of different academies all over the UK that talk about how we run our academy. And one of the key things that we've always been really strict on, we want to create climbers as well as competition climbers. So in our academy, which may be different to others, we will continue to have those kids at a certain age to go through NICAS as well as academy, because we don't want their B-lane to be affected. We want to ensure they understand it. And yes, some kids don't necessarily want to do it, and when they get older, we have ways around it. But for those young kids that are identified as talented youths and want to go through our performance schemes, we continue them through that NICAS program so that they can ensure those base level hard skills are continued. Now, also, when it comes to the performance side, you really need to ensure you've got a good sort of talent scouted option. And that can be a multitude of ways. We're just about to announce recently, or coming up soon, sorry, that we're going to be doing an open day for people to come and look to join our various squads. We have also in the past and continue to go out and we watch our early level NICASs, and we identify kids in level as low as level 1 that are naturally talented, and we just monitor their progression throughout the terms. And when they get to a stage where we feel maturity wise they're ready for it, We'll have discussions with them and their parents. We'll get them in on a couple of coaching sessions, and then we can then start them on that journey of joining either our junior performance squad or our senior performance squad. Post NICAS schemes or sessions. Now, what I mean by this is when they've either finished NICAS level 5 or NIBAS, where do they then go? So back to this thing of, do you have social clubs? Do you create some sort of a session where, or facilitate some sort of a session where they just come in casually? Do you have a junior sign-off process so kids over 14 years old can get signed off? Have you discussed with your TA about talented youth that are under 14 and been able to see some sort of a sign-off? Just to allow them that opportunity. They go from being very structured to then passing, and then they may not do anything, and it could drop off very quickly, which we have seen in the past. So trying to have those avenues for them to continue is very important. That obviously is ticked onto unsupervised junior climbing schemes. A new one for us, which we've just now started to have the first few people come through, instructor pathway. So when I first started at Reading, I had a kid that joined very early on called Catherine Rose. She was then part of the GB junior team. And then years later, she became an instructor. She is based in Reading when she is at home. She's at University of Manchester, so she works between our 2 sites, and it is a fantastic opportunity. Here we've got Joe, who is one of our newer instructors. Incredible climber, will be an amazing coach. Actually started at Amersham and was there for a while, and then moved over to our NICAS and then Academy scheme. And he's now an instructor with us. So it is so important to you as a business, and maybe it sounds a weird way of doing it, but you can benefit from creating very good, passionate climbers that want to then take that as a career. And I think it is important for us to be able to nurture that, or be able to give the option to develop that into other walls or other opportunities. And especially for smaller walls, Amersham, especially for us back in the day, we used to have to rely on those kids coming through to then be able to come, even our receptionists, because it maybe wasn't the most attractive jobs for some kids that weren't into climbing. And being able to find instructors was quite hard. So it's a really, really important tool that I would encourage everyone to really look at and try and come up with something in place. And then the final one, which again we sort of touched on earlier, always remember the parents. Any sort of decision that we make as a company, we will always sound it by a few parents, or we will always talk to our parents before anything gets rolled out. We have a hugely loyal parent scheme here, and I do call it parent scheme because they are there doing so much of the work for us when it comes to when competitions coming up, arranging travel, or working with us when it comes to like new things we're trying to roll out. And I think always keeping them up to date, allowing them opportunities to book things first, making sure they've got their guaranteed spaces when they need to, making sure that if they're part of an academy scheme, that's always reserved for them. Just those sort of things to make sure that you're not going to upset them and you're going to keep them as part of the family that they feel you are. Is so important. Our walls are communities, as we all know, and having the junior parent, instructor, coach relationship, businesses can do things very wrong and can unpick that very quickly if you're not careful. So it's quite important to make sure that that is communicated out. And that can be through a whole host of ways. It can be almost having like parent evenings. It can be having a really good email communication out. It can just be having one person that on the evening goes out and talks to the parents. Any one of those options is fine, and I'm sure there's more that you might do, but having that as an option is very, very important. Okay, so that's more things I could sort of go into. I'm obviously assuming everybody's already got in place pricing structures and elements of that, making sure it's affordable. So I'm not going to go into that side of things. Otherwise, this would be very much death by PowerPoint. But hopefully that in sort of the scheduling side or the planning, the structure element is good. As we sort of move on to the next bit, if anyone wants to pop some questions in here and let me know, that would be really good. Just sort of looking at some of the feedback we've had in regards to how people have been running these. So 6-week NICAS courses over the school year. That was what we used to do at Reading, and it worked amazingly. We just decided to lock it in a bit longer, but that's a really good model. Big retention scheme with waiting lists for some of our clubs with 40+ kids on them. Amazing. And I guess with things like that, it's just trying to find out if there's clever ways that you can do things to be able to facilitate more of it. I understand at the moment we're all working under slightly reduced capacities. Hopefully soon that'll be able to lift, but can you do clever things with opening hours? Can you almost open before the centre opens for casual customers and deliver some sessions? Sort of look at those sort of options. Block bookings for one school term. Cool. And a lot of you running full year terms, which is really, really good. 50 weeks of the year, amazing. Brilliant. Okay, so what I'll do is move on to the next slide. So your team and communication, the real key to success. So without a doubt, your team, all of our teams are so important to what we do here. And what I was saying about you can't deliver this by yourself. Physically, obviously, if you've got a successful program, you physically can't. You're one person, you can't work every day of the week, you can't run multiple sessions. So it is very important to have a really good team around you. Now, when it comes to the team and how you do this, the three key things I always work on: training and mentoring. And the training and mentoring side doesn't have to be hugely costing. Obviously, you need your prerequisites and you need to have your instructors having the various qualifications and the bits they need to sort of effectively tick the boxes. But I very much say ticking the boxes is kind of base level you need to go through. The next stage on from that is then the internal mentoring, the having those technical advisors or using the tools you've got from people like Abby at NICAS and booking onto those various different courses. But also just shadowing, having somebody in a position that can go out and shadow sessions and can constructively give feedback, even if it's just to reaffirm that was an amazing session. It is so important because those things need to be filtered to the rest of the team, irrelevant of how small or big your team is. You need to be sharing those, empowering your team to make improvements. I was a coach effectively for the longest part of my career, and I will still think I know best, and I absolutely don't. I will have coaches out there that I think I've got a great idea, and I've now got to the point where I don't even worry. I just sort of say I want to do something new, and my guys will get it sorted and come back to me with a plan, and I'll promote it and do what I need to. But make your team give them the empowerment to be able to do that, because they know best. They really do, and it is important to listen to it. Not everything will be possible. Some things won't be right from a business point of view. Some things will cost too much, but just make sure you're taking the feedback on board and reviewing it and trying to understand where that idea in the background has come from. Keep them updated and create channels for communication. And this sort of comes back again to what the potential pitfalls are. So without a shadow of a doubt, we have issues where staff aren't aware something's happened. And even with the team I've got and this amazing structure, the bigger it gets, almost the harder it is. At Amersham, we used to be able to have a weekly meeting because the team was nice and small, and that was a lot easier. So making sure you've got the communication channels, and I would suggest one person that is responsible for that, so it doesn't get to I thought she was doing it, and it never happens. So with the communication, the important thing to remember is you need the instructor coach to manager, the instructor coach to participant, and the instructor coach to parents, which you kind of already discussed on. But you also need it the other way around. You need the managers to talk to them, you need the participants to talk to the coaches and the parents. So creating not just channels in regards to emails or various chat groups, or we have a HR system where we can do announcements and communication and messaging, but also just having an approachable, and I think that was something that came up earlier about what type of coach do you want. Having an approachable coach that someone can just walk up to, ask a question, not feel silly or not feel bad for asking something that might not seem an obvious thing or whatever it might be. You need that, because otherwise that's when things bubble underneath the surface and then can explode, or you can cause friction between parents and coaches and etc. And I think honesty when it comes to this is really important. If you think you've got a kid that isn't performing through various reasons, and it might not even be anything to do with their own issues, or it could just be purely down to the setting that they're in isn't right. Communication of, right, we don't think this is working. We suggest maybe one-to-ones, one coaching sessions with someone they feel comfortable and trying to develop that element of it. So I think it is very important, and especially for us when we're trying to turn out so many different things and we're trying to advertise summer and opening events and bits and pieces, communication can get forgotten, and it is very important to make sure that it does continue and grows in a way, and organically it will get better. But yeah, just important to make sure you've got something like that structure in place. Right, so facilities and their limitations. Now, obviously, just from sort of looking at the different walls we've got here, we are talking about a whole mixture of different types of facilities. So I'm sure everyone can relate to the various bits I'm going to discuss here. Now, knowing and accepting your facilities limitations is not failing. Reading and Southampton are two big walls, and we have absolutely had to identify where their limitations are. Now, Southampton has been deliberately created, designed, and will be able to offer what Reading can't in regards to it's bigger, it's more spacious. We've created a much better dedicated gym area. training facility, and we've created them in little areas where they're tucked away from the rest of the wall, but still part of the centre. Our Reading site's a bit different. We've got a very much squeezed in training area. It's not necessarily where it should be, but we make it work and we understand how that works. And our coaches understand I can't have 3 coaches at once going and using that element of the centre, and I can't have my instructors decide they want to go and do footwork on the top rope slab because it's not big enough. So some of it could be that sort of element of understanding your limitations. Some of it purely could be, I can't deliver NICAS 5 because I don't hit the requirements. And again, that's not an issue. You just need to make sure what you do to the best. So the harsh reality, our facilities can't do everything, so be great at what you can do. Understand what your facility capacity is. So that's your standard, irrelevant of what might or might not happen on the 19th and what you decide to do as a company. Your facility has a capacity, and are you prepared to throw everything into NICAS and potentially upset your kids' business, your adult business, sorry, or your casual business? I know a lot of facilities that have decided to go down the line of creating additional facilities or developing their facilities to be able to house kids' business away from the adult business, so that you have that separation. I also know some of them that have had to make a harsh sort of decision of, we're not going to deliver X, Y, and Z because it's going to affect this part of our business. And then basically whatever you decide or whatever you find from this, embrace it, because you need to run with what you've got. We're all limited in the facilities that we've really got without big expansions and costly developments. So the final part before I sort of move on to a little bit of I guess sort of some Q&A on this and bring the rest of the panel back. Marketing. Now we put a lot of time and our own passion. We don't use external resource or anything like that at all. It's just an in-house collaboration that we do through all 4 of our centres of using social media and doing the marketing. And we have an external company that then creates our bigger campaigns. But for the day-to-day stuff, it's in-house. And I guess how to get ahead of a fast-growing industry. The Olympics is here, and climbing is going to be on the map. And how do you stick your head out from the crowd? Now, I'm not just talking about social media, because I think a lot of people now are just perceiving all marketing as social media. What I'm more sort of talking about is, if you've got your digital marketing, your paper marketing, how can you then take those elements, but also with the marketing internally and using the different people that you've got, or the, I guess, influencers and people like that, how can you use them to help you expand? So create pathways into NICAS. The easiest way to get kids into a scheme is to get them into an intro session and bring them into it. So make sure all of your instructors know that if they're taking part in an intro session, they will probably want to at some point join onto a club, and make sure the parents and them are aware of it. Make sure that the promotion of word of mouth is really positive. We're all on TripAdvisor and Google reviews and various things like that, but word of mouth still is so important. Unfortunately, it still is the way that negative is always overpowers positive, and if you've had a bad experience, you're more likely to talk about it than necessarily a positive one. But from our point of view, we really push for, if someone says I had an amazing time, please can you leave us a review, or please can you pop and share a post, or whatever it might be. And I guess as well on that, encouraging customers to share their experiences independently through social media and reviews and things is really good. And then again, don't forget the parents, really don't. They will be your best friends when it comes to they'll be your best friends when it comes to trying to get their kids through the schemes and do these various bits and pieces, and try and make sure that that is encouraged throughout the process of them being with you. So final part on social media. If you are going to do promote we have an about us page on our websites where we promote our team, and we say a little bit about them on social media, and we do regular things of just celebrating birthdays, celebrating big ascents. Tell them who your team are, because irrelevant of the size of your business, I guarantee you've all got impressive teams that you really want to promote, and they at the end of the day are the faces of your businesses. Promote your young athletes, like say who is doing what. Promote when they're at competitions, promote when they're just out on the crag with their parents, promote when they're out on your outdoor days, or when they're in and they've done a new ascent. Like really promote that, because it is very important. And equally, from a marketing point of view, if you're going to do any sort of photo shoots, or you're going to do anything through that, use real people. Don't get models in, don't do any of that. It costs you more money and you don't need to. Our academy kids love having their photos taken, and it just makes everything look a lot more real for us. And promote your scheme. And I'm saying on the other side, don't just sell. Don't just tell them we've got a scheme available that's X amount of £100 and come and book onto it, etc. Promote why your scheme is the best out there, or is one of the best out there. Like, why should people be joining your scheme? And unfortunately, that might take a lot of time, and reviews might need to be there, and you might need people that are going to be shouting about you as much as you're shouting about yourself. But I would strongly suggest identifying what your scheme's going to be, pinpointing what your, I guess, your unique selling point is, and really, really going for it. Because for us, we've kind of, in a way, done it possibly the wrong way, but it's working for us, is we've gone for that, the academy element of it. Like, we have this really good performance scheme that our kids want to aspire to. And the whole way along, everybody is treated as an individual and everybody's given opportunities to progress through. But that's for us what we wanted to get our kids to inspire to. And some of it will be down to the fact that a lot of the people that are involved are coaches that have either coached performance-based kids or have gone through the process themselves, and therefore that's what they can identify to. But we then had to be very careful to make sure we had those exit strategies for the kids that didn't want to do that. So if they don't want to be part of a performance squad or a coaching type, more focused coaching or competition style session, then we don't push them into it. So thank you. I think my piece was supposed to be about an hour, but yeah, I don't think any of you need to listen to me necessarily for a whole hour. What I was going to say now is, obviously, we can get some more questions up. I was just sort of having a quick look through. I've got some kids on here to say that, obviously, in regards to photos, please do ensure you get permission from parents, make sure you get consent forms, etc. You obviously can have things where things can be put into waivers and stuff, so it can all be stored digitally as well. But yeah, just make sure that you do it properly, and don't just go out there snapping snapping photos of kids. So if anybody does want any more information, more than happy to field any emails or take some questions from here. And I guess I'll pass back to Rob, who can yeah, pick up any questions and take it from here.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, dude. That was awesome. I hope you guys got loads of really good information there. That was really, really in depth. Thank you very much for that, Tom. And like you said, I hope you're all there typing away. Get some questions into us for Tom. The first question that came in there around photo permissions, Tom, he's answered that already. He's exactly right. You got to make sure you get your consent forms or permissions done before you start taking photos of random kids. So and you know, that can be part of your sign-in procedure or your NICAS, or you can have a separate form. But that's something for you to discuss with your cloud mob management. Cool. So can I get all of my panelists back on the screen for me, please? There we go. Abby, brilliant. Is Mel still with us? Or has Mel vanished? Scott's here.
I'm here, but my video won't start.
Okay, that's fine. You can just shout over the top of all of us. Grand. Okay, so while there's some questions coming in from people, let's quickly look back at some of the questions from this morning. There was a good one. As a recently newly qualified CWDI, Cloud Mold Development Instructor, what advice would you give to stepping up to taking on NICAS level 4 and 5 for the first time? Obviously, like, you're just qualified, you've been given NICAS level 4 or 5, you can take kids lead climbing now, but doing it for the first time is still a daunting thing. I have my own experience in that very side. So what's your advice? What could you give for new instructors taking it up?
Hiya. Do you want to go, Mel? Is she there?
Yeah, cool. Well, I'd say maybe work alongside other instructors that could be on shift with you, and maybe tag team it and run a session together. So then you can see how they're running it, but then give you the confidence to run it yourself in the future. Because it can be quite daunting as a new CWDI. So just see if you could team up with someone for those first couple of sessions, just more for confidence. Because if you pass that award, you clearly know what you're doing. But it's just from a confidence side, isn't it?
Yeah. Mel, your audio is pretty jumpy as well. But yeah, no, I completely agree with that. You know, just because you're now qualified doesn't mean you need to just jump in straight away and do it without seeing how other instructors do it. You will have other instructors in your wall that you can shadow, you can work with, you can have on your groups as well, and just see how they do it, kind of get into it gradually, pick up some tips from experienced instructors that have been doing this for a little bit. Definitely worthwhile. I don't think that people really consider shadowing. Once you've got your qualification, they don't consider shadowing all that often. And I think that's a really, really important part of our industry, is being able to shadow really experienced instructors. So that's really good advice, Mel.
Another bit of advice would probably be something along the lines, they're not there to learn how to lead in session one. So just take everything slowly. Knowledge doesn't always need to be given over 1,000,000 miles an hour, which is sometimes where instructors are essentially trying to do a really good thing by giving as much information as possible, but in especially certainly leading, they don't need to learn to lead straight away. Yeah, that's not the aim of session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a slow progression. Be slow, take your time, don't rush everything, don't overload information, because it's a very, very different skill.
Yeah, I agree. So I set a kind of time scale on mine for NICAS 4. Everybody will be different. Mine's a year. So I give that expectation that we're going to take a good amount of time, and I don't expect to be leading without a safety rope until term 3. Then if we do it quicker, great, but then everybody is on side with the idea of how long it takes. Have everything on a ghost rope or a supported line, and that means that you can be comfortable teaching in the way that you're used to. So it's just top roping for a while, and then when you get to that point, I think that critical decision is when you decide that they're ready to go and do a live lead without the support rope, and that's when maybe you might go and get a more experienced coach just to come and check that everything is in place before you do that.
Yeah. There was a really good one that came in. It's kind of the one of the other questions from this morning that I kind of really wanted to get to was any tips for getting through to the overconfident participants that feel like they know everything. I'm sure we've all seen a fair few of them in the time. So yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. You've got kids that are really, really, really psyched, but they also think that they know everything and they stop listening to you after a while. So, what would you guys do to kind of re-engage with them and show them that they don't know everything? They've still got a long way to go in this learning process. Jules, go for it.
I'm happy to do a bit of it. So, I mean, I think a lot of it is down to expectations at the start, which obviously if you've got a kid in this position, it may be a little bit too late, but the expectations throughout is so important. So what's probably ended up happening is you've got a kid that is probably naturally very talented or has excelled very quickly, so it ends up getting to a point where they are potentially further ahead than others, or they might be at a stage where they're progressing faster. I think a lot of it is you need to have these sit-down chats, so you need to explain the issues. So normally what can happen is if kids are at that level, there might be issues when it comes to safety, or there might be issues when they're not sticking to training plans, and not necessarily that you need to have it really, really rigid and really tell them off all the time, but there'll be other factors that are coming in that means that it's either affecting your sessions, their sessions, other sessions, and you need to make sure that it's being well explained as to why it's important. Unfortunately, as well, in the back of my mind with it, I'm thinking all the kids I've had those problems with have always been the kids that probably have been the ones that have gone off to do the best, because they're the ones that are going to push the boundaries. They're the ones that aren't going to necessarily listen and go and find their own paths. And actually, that's something we should really encourage, which is why I'm saying that if you've got those kids that not everyone's going to fit a mold, we're not all cookie cutters. So we need to make sure we are having those opportunities that, right, actually what you really need is one-to-one coaching. And actually what you probably need to do is go and have some climbing sessions with some adults that are way harder climbers than you. Come and have a session, coach will be there with you, but this is where you actually want to be. So this is why you need to listen, because those adults that are climbing stupidly hard, and that's where you think you are, and you're maybe not quite there, this is how to get there. And almost bring in some role models. That kids with kids is great, but when you get those kids that are sort of the top of the tree, it's quite hard to then find the inspiration. So almost having ambassadors or role models within your facilities, instructors obviously are the best way to do it, would be really good.
Yeah, exactly.
So I completely agree with you, Tom. So that's what I was going to say, is bring in a much better climber. I'm lucky that I have some precociously very, very good crushers nearby. that I get that kind of child to watch and be really humbled. And so, and kids tend to be pretty good at leveling the others and saying, right, I want you to watch that person and identify what is it that they're doing that you're not doing. What is it do you think that allows them to do that route? What do we need to work on? And I think you're right. Those really, those kind of children do tend to be the ones that go on to be the stars, because you can't knock them too much. That isn't the way. Actually, your role is to, they're gifted and talented. You need to push them and excel. And if you've got a session, you might need to give them very different work to everybody else. So they might need to start training, or you might say, would you like to do basically climbing training? It's more sophisticated, but to get there, you're going to have to give me 5 lessons where you don't jump around and you belay properly.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of carrot and stick.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm a huge fan of peer-to-peer coaching and peer-to-peer work. I'm a really big fan of taking kids that know a skill and using them to teach it to kids that are kind of developing that skill. And if you've got someone that definitely knows a lot, maybe thinks they know everything, pick a skill that you know that they can do well, and get them to teach the other people in the group that are maybe needing to develop it. Because one, it will challenge their knowledge of the system and see if they actually understand it really thoroughly, but it'll just cement it really, really strongly in them as well. So they end up getting a lot out of teaching skills that they already know how to do. And, you know, I think kids learn a lot better sometimes off each other rather than listening to an adult talk at them, you know. So I'm a big fan of peer-to-peer coaching. Obviously, it's a delicate balance to hit. You don't want to ask someone to, right, show me how to do that, and, you know, you make them look like an idiot, because that's a way to turn someone off. But, you know, it's a delicate balance to hit, but it can be used really, really well. Yeah. Tom, question that came in there. Any tips for pitching the retention model to management? Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Yes. Yes, there's a couple of options you can do with this. All businesses and all managers want to hear the word retention, really. So it shouldn't be necessarily a hard sell. The thing that I would start is, if you do think you've got an uphill battle, or you've already approached the topic and it's been knocked back, is talk to your parents. Turn around and say about, this is what we'd like to do. The benefit for you is that it will guarantee your sessions. It will probably, in some cases, maybe even give them a discount on what they're currently getting on like the one-to-ones, and almost get together these are the parents that are prepared to do this, and almost show that the shifts will work before you're going to do it. Because so again, when I joined, one of the centres at Parthian weren't doing it, and that was one of the first things that we wanted to change, and it definitely worked for the better, because kids want to have that structure. They don't want the disappointment of, oh, can I go to tomorrow's session? Oh, sorry, you can't, it's fully booked. Managers, owners want to know they've got guaranteed revenue, and they want to know it's paid up front, so you're not going to be getting cancellations last minute. So it should be a win-win, and it's just kind of understanding at what point is too much. So you don't want to book an entire year up, because that's way too much cash for parents to do up front. But if you can do half terms or full terms, so yeah, put together a business proposal on it, use parents as sounding boards, and if you can get a little petition together of these are all the parents that are happy to do it, and I would suggest going in more heavily pushed towards doing the term when you do it. So don't give loads of people the option to do one or the other, because some people will never take the push. You might need to gently nudge some people into it. But that's what I would say, especially if you've got management where you need to kind of, in a way, persuade them or give them a good sort of reasoning.
Yeah.
I think
Just to add on that, being a former manager, they're worried about revenue versus expenditure there. They don't want to run a course, commit to the salary expenditure, and then, you know, you don't get the numbers in to support that. That's so you need to try and appease that for them. And just as Tom said, if you can get a number who are pre-booked onto that, that's effectively guaranteed income. That then covers all the expenditure, and then you can run the course. And absolutely agree with Tom. Don't give too much choice. you maximum, absolute maximum two ways of paying, or two options. If you start going into any more than that, then you're going to run into trouble. And just be consistent.
I've got to agree with Tom. I think one of the areas in which Walls sort of I've certainly seen in where they can improve is that level of engagement with parents. My job at Reading Climbing Centre at 4:30 until 7 o'clock was to sit with parents and go through NICAS logbooks in the cafe, grab a coffee, chuck a couple of free cups of tea around. You've got to remember, these guys are the ones that book as much fun as the kids are having. Parents that are really engaged will stay on board. They'll stay on board, and that's what they'll do. And if they understand what they're buying, i.e. talk them through that process, what they're going to learn, how they're going to learn, they're going to rebook. It really is an easy sell. For a member of staff, you pay them a couple of hours on a Tuesday and a Thursday evening to sit with parents and go through the logbooks, get some free tea on the go. And it just changes the whole aspect for them parents. They understand what's going on. They want to get the kids to the next level because they understand it more. But also they want to come for a cup of tea with you next Tuesday because they enjoyed having a chat with you. They enjoyed a bit of a laugh. So it's really important that it becomes a social engagement for the parents. God, we used to have like a ladies club on a Thursday. I remember this is like 10 years ago. A ladies club on a Thursday, and they just sit and talk about anything and everything. But they never used to do that. But they booked on all their, I think there was about 20 parents, and all their kids did through level 1 to level 5, all of them. And it was just because of that engagement. So don't undervalue that opportunity you've got. Really don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I add as well, as a parent, what parents like, my friends like, is that consistency. So you know how your week's going to pan out. If things jump around or you haven't booked, you think, oh yeah, it might not get into it. If you know Thursday is the climbing night, Monday's football, whatever it is, that's really important, because as soon as it's, oh, actually, little Johnny needs to go on Tuesday, it used to be Wednesday, it's like, well, that day I've got to be somewhere else with my other child. So that's also something to factor in, having fun when you're there, but also that scheduling is quite key in a lot of people's weeks as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like having the conversations with the parents, making a plan, and then bringing it to your managers. It's like, bringing your managers solutions, not problems. It's a really good idea. If you're trying to win them over, that's the way to do it. Yeah. Grant. Here's a good one. Any advice for kids that are part of NICAS or performance squads that have lost the passion? Having spoken to some kids or some parents, they will say they're super keen during the session, but really like they want to try other things. Like how would you take a kid that you've worked with for potentially a while that has kind of lost the passion and kind of try and re-engage them in what you're doing in NICAS or in performance squads or just in climbing in general?
So I think that's always going to happen nearly with every student that you've got. If you have them a long time, they're going to go up and down. I think you need to be quite close with the family, because they can tell you what's happening with the child, because sometimes it's kind of external. Like if a kid's developed anxiety or depression, it's not really your fault in climbing. That's something that's happened outside, so you can maybe help to manage that. And everybody will have different interests at different times. My tactic is that climbing has so many ways of engaging with it that if somebody loses a bit of interest in one, you can push a bit of excitement in another. So if someone was a competition boulderer and now feels it's too much pressure and they aren't enjoying it, we might shift our focus, like an offer alternatives. Have you thought of maybe trying to grade hunt on lead? Is that something that you'd enjoy? Have you thought of trying to become a coach now for the younger pupils, or some alternative? So that's the way that I usually try to navigate it, and try and find out lots of conversation about what is it in particular that it's usually psychological. What is it that you don't like about this anymore? Is it that you don't think you're very good anymore, or that you've lost interest, or is it friends? What was it about it? And see if you can address that, some sort of support for that area. And if you can't, then switch to a different bit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, talking. I'm echoing somewhere. Yeah, talking to them, having conversations, trying to find out what it is that's maybe putting them off, and trying to address that. Like, it's something that I don't think we really consider or talk about too much as coaches. When we're coaching people or instructors running NICAS sessions, we're also a bit of counselors. We work with people in quite an intimate scenario, in an intimate way. Like, you're going to have conversations and you're going to have to give advice on things that potentially are outside climbing. But we always talk about climbing. We say the word climbing and we mean it as this one single thing. But like Joel said, there's loads and loads of different ways you can climb. So it might be that the person is just switched off to one element of it and they're not really enjoying that part. But there's loads and loads of ways we can climb. And it might not even need to be part of NICAS. It could just be, coming socially climbing with your friends and forgetting about trying to progress. Just come and have some fun. It could even be trying outdoors. It could be, it could be anything. But there's loads and loads of different ways that we can climb, and that we can show the kids that there are various ways, and that they maybe haven't just found their way yet.
I think I don't want to badger on about. I don't want you to think I'm coming across here that we should be annoying parents every 2 minutes. We go back to the parent thing. If you engage with them, you'll find out pretty quickly what's maybe bugging them before it becomes a problem. So before the issues arise, you're already engaged with the parents, so that they're already maybe going to say, oh, they had this little issue, they're not quite sure about, already that person that's engaging with the parents at a certain time could hopefully stop some of that happening. But again, I'm not saying go and start hammering parents and say you need to buy this, you need to buy this. It's a personal touch.
Just another quick one in the planning element of it as well. Like, if there's any managers out there or anyone that's scheduling sessions, try and ensure you give your instructors and coaches downtime between sessions to deal with these things. Because when Reading was very successful, we just sandwiched sessions in, and all of a sudden you'd get to like the end of a day and someone would say, oh, so-and-so, we had a problem with them on session. Did you talk to them? Well, no, I was straight on my next session. Okay, well, did you discuss with the parents? No. And then having that conversation the following day is then a really awkward one to have. And 9 out of 10 as well with these sort of issues, when it's got to this point where a kid's maybe acting out or just feel like they've lost the passion or whatever it might be, there would have been signs happening months before, and it's just trying to identify those and targeting them early on. And yeah, I mean, debrief sessions are so important, even in group scenarios, individuals, and knowing when you need to then pull that into an individual if it's part of a group is also equally important. So yeah, if you're a manager, do try and allow yourself or your staff, that downtime in between sessions to pick up on paperwork, deal with any issues, have those conversations. It will really help.
Yeah, absolutely. One more good question. How to install confidence at level 4 when we're potentially introducing kids to lead climbing? Like, we know that there's sometimes quite a big drop off at the end of level 3 coming into that level 4. And it might be that there's just a barrier with kids being nervous about learning to lead climb because, lead climbing's scary. So how would we kind of instill a little bit of confidence in that? Yes, lead climbing is a bit of a step up, but we do it in a very, very safe way, and we move at your pace. How would you kind of deal with these situations? Either have the conversations, or what kind of ideas would you introduce into your coaching to help with this?
My experiences are quite different. So pretty much all the kids I teach are desperate to lead instantly, and I'm having to say, no, sorry, not yet. I think that's probably because I've got a lot of role models who lead very nicely and it looks kind of cool. There's something to go for. But for those people who are nervous, it's just taking it gently and setting lots of really small bite-sized challenges that they can do well in. So like you were saying about taking it slow, learning to clip on a rope, learning to go above a clip, learning how to fall below the clip, at the clip, perfecting your clipping, all those things, like little bite-sized bits, and every time having a big sense of achievement for that little challenge that you did, rather than one enormous challenge of never doing that massive drop thing that some people do, which will put somebody off the climbing for life. Just kind of breaking it in. Do you agree?
Yeah, Absolutely. Mel?
Yeah, I think you're right there, John, because the anxious children that we get, if you push them too soon into lead, it'll just scare them off. But there is no rush. They can lead when they're ready. And going through those skills, I find that naturally they do then want to lead. They just need to understand the skills. They see, actually, I am really safe. And now I would like to lead, but it has to be their decision. And level 4 does take quite a while anyway. So there isn't any rush with it. And they need to be comfortable in what they're doing.
I find there's quite a lot of kudos to being able to lead. All mine I actually use it as a way of giving confidence. I have a couple of boys who lost a lot of confidence in lockdown, and they are now with my younger ones as my role models for them. And they walk a bit taller and have a little bit of swagger because they're the only two in my group who lead, and everyone watches them. And it's given, I mean, they're leading on rainbows and it's very, very easy, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that they're doing it and they're doing it well.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Right, I've got one more question to wrap up with. So I'm sure we've all seen it at some point. NICAS sessions, I think just because of the tick the boxes, the logbook thing, sessions, some instructors they get a little bit repetitive sometimes. They end up getting into a bit of a rhythm, and it can get a little bit samey. And I think that's where we start to lose a little bit of the engagement with some kids sometimes, when the sessions become a little bit too focused on ticking the boxes rather than having fun climbing. So one thing to tackle this, what would be your absolutely top golden nugget bit of advice for keeping your NICAS sessions as fun and engaging as possible? Who would like to take that first?
Okay.
Go.
So I think that instructors and coaches can become quite repetitive and just end up teaching the same old thing, because it's what you know. You have a structure in your head, you want it to be efficient, so you go with that structure. But I think it's really important to speak to your team, speak to other coaches, get new ideas, and take an idea off someone else and change what you're doing, just funk it up. And you can do that within your team, but you can also go to other climbing walls and just have a look at what other people are doing. It can be quite inspiring. It just keeps you fun, and it's good for your own knowledge and your progress as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's we shifted a while ago at Reading when we were doing quite big sessions for kids, where we had instructors doing warm-ups together rather than 3 different sessions or 4 different sessions running. And effectively it meant that you had one instructor maybe leading it, and then 3 others kind of watching and learning and then chipping in. And then all of a sudden it sort of comes to, right, who's going to run the best warm-up, or who's going to do the best debrief, or and a bit of competitiveness in the instructors to go away and then come back with the next new thing, and that sort of side of it I think is really good. But if you're in a centre where you're not able to, where you might be an instructor running a session, then either speak to your next big wall and go and ask a shadow, or just generally go and climb at another wall that is running sessions and just see what they do. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for CPD and going out and actually developing yourself, and as a coach keeping things fresh for you and stuff that you want to do. At the end of the day, these kids are climbers as you are. If you're not interested in what you're doing, they're not going to be. So making sure that you sort of keep it fresh from that point of view.
I probably have 2 snippets. One, it's incumbent on management to ensure that instructors aren't repeatedly doing the same session over and over again. And the reason for that is complacency then kicks in. It becomes dull and boring because you're not doing anything else. So don't just ensure that Scott's always doing the level 1s. Make sure that there's a variety in what they're delivering. That's really, really important. And then 2, which I think is probably the most important for me, is the knowledge hub of sharing. So every month, get all your instructors together for 30 minutes, get one of them to start lead a session. Swap over member of staff, get the next member of staff to jump in halfway through, share ideas. That there is more valuable than somebody coming in and, not more valuable than technical advisor or whatever. I don't, it's really hard to context it, but sharing them ideas between your staff is absolutely hugely important. So they're really, for me, the two key areas that can keep things fun. And also remember, you're making the climbers of tomorrow. What would you want to? Yeah, how would you want to learn? How do you want to learn?
Yeah. Jules?
Yeah, I mean, I've been going a long time, so it's hard to think of new things, and I don't really like doing anything twice. So it's constant thinking, what am I going to do this time? And actually, I find the students have really good ideas. So for me, the best questions on the quiz there were made by Tilly, you know, with those cool pictures at grounds. And I quite often will get the kids to say, what do you fancy doing? And they'll make up some game which is overcomplicated and probably not workable. And then I will try and channel it into something that would actually work. But they come up with really cool and creative ideas. So allowing your kids lots of input. And sometimes they love a game that I thought maybe was a bit boring, actually, ages ago, and they want to play it again. So I kind of try and keep the same structure in my sessions, because there's a kind of security in having a bit of ritual about how we always play a game, and then we always do our warm-up, and then we do our main activity, and we always come together at the end. There's like a little bit of structure, but within that, I'll always vary it. So you would never get the same session twice.
Yeah.
Boring.
Yeah, exactly. I think like my golden bit of advice would be get creative, get funky, get weird with it. Like we've all, you know, the coaching courses that are out there are brilliant in showing you ways of taking a skill, breaking it down and creating something, or using a game or whatever. And we've all hopefully read books, climbing games and stuff like that to give us a little bit of advice. But if you're able to look at the learning outcomes that are on each NICAS level, and not specifically what's in the boxes in the tick the box list, but the learning outcomes for each level, and say, right, I'm going to work on balance in my session today. What stupid game, activity, something can I create that might work on balance? And be really inventive, be really creative, use lots of toys, lots of tools, lots of different angles of wall and stuff. And if it works, fantastic. You've got a new game to throw into your chest that you can hand out to other instructors as well. If it doesn't, brilliant, learn from it. Why did that not work? It might actually be useful for a different technique or something. And like Joel said, you know, letting the kids help you create games as well is a really, really brilliant idea. Just because there are books out there with games, climbing games in them, does not that mean that that is the only climbing games that you can play. Get weird with it. And if you're going to do any of this, practice what you preach. If you're going to ask a bunch of kids to do a silly game or a silly activity, do it with them. It's a brilliant thing to do. One, it'll help you in your coaching. You'll get a little bit more understanding about how these things work. But two, if it's really stupid game, it makes everybody feel a little bit more comfortable if you make yourself the biggest idiot in the room, as I constantly like to do. So yeah, like my biggest advice is just get creative with it. And if you come up with something that is absolutely genius, if you've come up with a game or a challenge or something that's brilliant for teaching a certain learning outcome, I want to know about it because I want to steal it. So yeah, email me, share it with me, please. I'm sure we're all the same here.
I was going to say, we have got a really good resource that Climb Scotland produced about various games. I think that might have been something to do with you, Robert. Yeah, so we have got some resources on the NICAS website. If you have a log in to the back end of our website, there's a whole load of stuff there. If you don't have that, then you should be able to get one if you're a coach for NICAS and NIBAS. So speak to your wall or speak to me and we can sort that out. So get some ideas from there and then you can build on them like all these guys are saying.
Yeah, exactly. Nick, have you got anything to add before we wrap up?
I was rather hoping you didn't come to me because there's some guy playing rap music out in a car outside my window. No, look, at the end of the day, we're here to help. You know, we've got experts up and down the country. So if anybody's got these questions, you don't have to wait for sessions like this. You just get in touch with us and we will either find the answer for you or, you know, depending on where you are, we might speak to people like Rob and say, okay, you know, we've got this, what do you think? And different geographical areas approach things quite differently. Obviously, we've got an amazing resource from Climb Scotland north of the border or whatever, and now they're more likely to go and put something on, you know, to answer a load of questions all at once. But, you know, we can do that. We can you know, we can give you a one-to-one with a coach development team member if you've got a specific, you know, need. We might even put something online or do a session online, and that makes it, you know, super easy to access and cost effective. It's not often that we will, you know, charge unless we're into significant costs ourselves to run these sort of sessions. So we want you to deliver, you know, the best NICAS sessions you can, quality coaching. Whatever we can do to support you and help you on that is very much in our interest to do so.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody.
I think there's one more question from Steve. I don't know, can you just see that?
Yeah, I was about to say, Steve, your question just came in there, but don't worry, I will get an answer to it and I'll send it out to you. So yeah, I know that we didn't get to your question there, but we'll wrap it up here, and Steve, I'll get you an answer and send it out to you in time. Cool. Thank you very much.
Before you sign off, Rob, those that aren't aware, the ABC are running a conference in September. If you're not going, you're missing out. All right, tickets are on sale. If you are a member of the ABC and you want some cheaper tickets, get in touch. But it's going to be amazing this year. We've got a massive exhibit hall and loads of cool talks going on. So if you're not there, you are genuinely missing out.
Brilliant. Yes, huge thank you to all of my panelists, Nick, Abby, Jules, Mel, Tom, Scott. I suppose you can get a thank you to. Massive thank you, guys. That was awesome. I hope that there was loads of really good information for all of you out there. I hope you got a lot out of it. And again, a huge thank you to all of you for joining in with us, all 30, 40 people that signed in, the hundreds of people behind the screens back home. Thank you for all joining in. Thank you for being so engaging with the question and answers. Like I said, any of the questions that we didn't get to, we'll get answers to them, and I'll send that out to you in time. This webinar was recorded, so that'll be up on YouTube. We'll send that link out to you in time as well. If you've got questions after this, which I'm sure you will all do, Nick and Abby have put their email addresses up there. Scott will have sent you emails. You'll have contacts there. So please get in touch with us, ask questions. Like Nick said, you don't need to wait for these kind of webinars. You know, just get in touch. We are here to help. And like Scott said, the ABC are running their conference. So if you haven't got tickets, go and get tickets. It will be fantastically exciting, as Scott has reminded me the last 5 times I've spoken with him. It's going to be brilliant. And I'm going to be there. So hopefully actually get to put some faces to the names. So yes, thank you to everybody. Thank you to all my panelists. We'll hopefully see you guys for the next one, which will be next month at some point, and more details will come out about that soon.